Melanie Clegg claims ex-boyfriend Newell Olmsted owes for rent and a television. Newell claims he's already paid his debt.
Mr. Olmsted, the plaintiff indicates in her complaint that you purchased a television set while the two of you were together, and you lived together for a period of time. You separated, and Ms. Clegg indicates that you separated because she found out some things that she didn't know about you. Does that be a fair statement? Mm-hmm. You have the television set. The payments for that television set was still outstanding when she left. It was some $1,200 left.
It was $1,257.
And on whose credit was it purchased?
Mine.
You got the TV?
Yes, ma'am.
You want the TV?
It's my TV, yeah.
It's not your TV unless you pay for it.
I did pay for it.
Show me.
I put...
What date did you separate?
We separated in December.
December 2009?
2008.
Okay. After December of 2008, she says that when you separated, there was $1,257 still owing.
There was only $1,000 owed on it, and I transferred that money into her account in January. 2 transactions from my account to her account for $500 each a transaction. She didn't pay it off in time. Then the interest kicked in. There's 2 transactions. There's one on the first day. There's actually 3 transactions to her account equaling $1,500. The third one was for a credit card that she said I owed her $500 on, so I paid that as well.
Okay, explain that to me.
He did transfer money into my account. It was for a credit card that he had on my name because he didn't have good credit, so he could not get any credit in his name.
Well, how much was owed on the credit card at the time?
There was $400. The balance was $1,000. There's $400 charge, and it says on her attorneys for his divorce. And he also owed me for his child's dentist that I was paying, which I have proof here also that I was paying.
I'm not getting so involved in this complicated case. You understand that?
Yes. And
I want to know how much was owed on this credit card when you separated in December.
$1,062.
Take a look at this, sir.
All that one is the form.
The only thing on this that I owe was $400, and I paid her $500.
$400 for?
She paid my retainer for my attorney for my divorce with this credit card, okay?
How much?
She paid $400.
Yes.
I paid her $500 for the interest. So I transferred $500. There's 3 transactions there of $500 apiece.
And so what you're telling me is none of those other transactions on that credit card are yours?
I mean, no.
Look carefully.
That's only 1 month statement.
That's dinner.
Only, I wasn't trying to get for that credit card. I was just saying that some of it.
She asked me.
No. Listen to me, Miss Clegg, very carefully. I see he transferred $1,500 to you at the end of December and the beginning of January.
$1,500?
Yeah. 3 payments of $500, 2 on January 7th and 1 on January 21st.
I did not get those transactions.
Those are my bank records from my bank account to her bank account. So I don't know how she couldn't have got them.
Miss Clegg, I just need your checking account for the months of December and January.
Here we go.
December 2008, January 2009.
Do you want the withdrawals or just the deposits that he had given me?
The statement. You should have it. Transfer from. I have 1 January 7th for $500 that she did, in fact, get. There is only 1 on January 7th for $500, sir, not 2.
Oh, you know, as Clegg L. That's a different account. I transferred that because she said that she needed to put it into a savings account. So
just a second. You have 2 that you've outlined on January 7th, both to Clegg M.
Okay.
She only received 1, but they're 2 different numbers. Hold on a second.
Yeah, there's 2 bank accounts. I mean, one of them was savings.
Whoa. Wait a second. How many different bank accounts do you have?
I have 2 savings, and I have 1, which the L is my mother.
That's where you told me to transfer.
No. I have 2 different savings account numbers.
Yes, I do. I have 2 accounts. I have
2
that's
different
my
savings
mom's, and
accounts.
I have 2 other savings accounts.
Show me those 2 savings accounts.
I can show you on the internet. I don't have anything with that.
Don't show me on the internet.
Yeah, there's nothing. I have nothing.
Well, then you take a look at these.
Okay. Yeah, Clegg L is my mother, not me.
I just put it in the account she told me to put it in.
You owe my mother money.
Oh, now I owe her mother money.
No. I believe you. Mr. Olmsted.
Yes, ma'am.
I see where you gave her $1,500. She says she only received 1 payment of $500. That's a lie.
Yes, ma'am.
She received 3 payments of $500. 2 went into her savings accounts and 1 went into her checking account.
Yes, ma'am.
So I don't believe that he only gave you 1 payment of $500. Now,
One of the Clegg L is my mom.
I don't care.
But that goes towards the TV?
His defense is that he gave you money after he moved out. Some of it was for his credit card, for his lawyer, and some of it was for the TV, $1,000 for the TV, which at that time, that's what was owed on the TV, which he paid for. He said the fact that you didn't make the payment on it and it went up to $1,200 is not his problem. If I believe him, then he doesn't owe you any money for the TV.
I put $1,000 down on that TV too, which I have proof of.
I don't care. TV, listen to me. All I'm concerned about is whether when you moved out there was any money due and owing on the television that he kept. And there was.
Yes.
And I find that he paid you for it. Now, the next thing I'm going to go over with you, what you say you loaned him for rent.
Yes.
Now I'll hear what you say you loaned him for rent. After you broke up, after you moved out, go.
I paid $2,600 to rent. He came to me in January of '09 and asked me if I could help him because he could not afford it and it would not look good in his divorce if he didn't have a place to stay. So I paid in January 2nd, I believe it is, I paid $995, which he was planning on paying me after his divorce. And
just a minute. Put your hand down. I saw it. Didn't you see me looking at you?
Well, I'm just making sure you saw me.
I couldn't miss it. Now, first show me proof that you gave him $2,600.
okay, here's that 1, 2, 3.
Don't give him anything. What are you showing me here?
The withdrawals out of the account were the rent for his house. That's a Wells Fargo account. It goes into a Bank of America account. And I had cash so that it wasn't the exact same amount every single month because I was...
Did she give you any money towards rent?
She didn't give me any money. She paid, I mean, yes, she did go pay the rent for us.
When?
January, February, March, but she received half the rent from him, so I don't know why she pulled out
On 1
$900.
month.
Shh. January, February, March. Now, she was not living with you then.
No, she moved out in December. Just stuck us with everything, just moved out.
And who were you living with at that time?
He moved in, or he decided to stay to help me with the rent since she moved out.
Was this apartment in both your names or just your name?
It was just in my name, but we lived there together, yes.
Did you move in together or did she move
December,
in?
yes. We moved in together in December of '08, and she moved out in December of '08.
Where had you been living before?
We had a house that we rented. We wanted to get into a cheaper place, so we got into a place that was $300 less a month.
When you lived in the house, were you sharing expenses?
Yes.
And why did you move out in December?
Because he was with my sister's best friend.
Well, that's a very good reason to leave.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Even if she thinks it, it's a very good reason
It is
to
true,
leave.
but the reason we split up is because she cheated on me.
I don't care.
So-
Actually, that's for another program, another time slot, not mine. I don't actually care about that. All I want to know is she moved out, the lease is in solely your name.
Yes.
And would you tell me why she paid any of the rent for January, February, and March?
She was helping me out, like she said. You know, I didn't have...
She was helping you?
Yes.
Why, if she was furious with you, because that's what she says, she was furious with you.
I didn't say she was furious.
Why? She says.
She says she's furious. I didn't. Why?
No. Listen to me. Hey,
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
why would somebody who is furious with you, she says she was furious with you, give you money?
That baffles me.
I
had
wouldn't
no
give you
idea.
a penny.
I wouldn't either.
Because she found out about him being together with her friend.
Listen, go get your 15 minutes someplace else, but don't shout out here.
I'm not trying to get 15 minutes. I'm just trying to state facts.
I don't want you to state anything unless I ask you to.
I raised my hand earlier and I didn't get a turn.
Excuse me.
But tell him not to go far in case I need him.
Will do.
I'm pretty sure we'll need him.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Just as long as she knows that he's here. The gentleman, Motormouth, who was here a moment ago, did he give you any money?
No,
towards rent?
He gave me $0.
You never got any money from him?
From him, no. If it came from his account, I don't know where the money came from.
Did you get any money?
That $500 that I put on there that says Tim's half of rent on that page, yes, that's the $500 of Tim's half of rent.
Who is
That's
Tim?
Motor mouth.
Motor mouth.
Yes.
Okay, so you got that money.
That's it.
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
Yes.
So you got $500 of the 26 that you gave him, which means you're out $2,100.
If that's what, wait, can I ask you something?
You're out $2,100.
Can I ask you something? Is that going towards the TV?
Forget the TV. The TV's over. I've already made a judgment on the TV.
Yes, but if you're accounting that $500 transferred from his account that you see out of Newell Olmstead's account into my account, the $500.
I thought it was from him.
It's out of Newell Olmstead's account.
Oh, well, you can't use that same $500, Mr. Olmsted, 10 times.
I'm not.
You can only use it once.
Tim gave her...
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Listen to me. You might be a very, very nice man and have many redeeming qualities. You're not George Clooney. Nobody who's not living with you, sir, is going to pay $2,600 for your rent. Not somebody that looks like that. Do you understand? Take a good look. Somebody that looks like that is not going to pay $2,600 for your rent after she's already broken up with you.
I agree.
But that's what she did.
No, she did not. Tim paid her $450. His part of the rent, he paid her. So that's not true. Yes, she
I don't believe that. And I don't believe motor mouth.
Okay.
I don't believe you should have had nothing to do with her. After you separated, you should have nothing to do with her. How come she gave you money? Did you call her and tell her that you needed money for rent?
I asked her to help me with rent.
Good. You owe her $2,600. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
19-year-old Ashley Miller is suing her aunt, Shauna Miller, for repossessing her car. Shauna claims Ashley didn't abide by the terms of their agreement.
Okay. Very complicated story. Let me see if I can simplify it because it's getting late in the afternoon and I'm getting a little tired. This is your aunt.
Yes, ma'am.
Who did a very nice thing for you several months ago.
Yes, ma'am.
And agreed to purchase a car. She was primarily responsible on the loan. You were a co-signer on the loan because you didn't have good credit.
Yes, ma'am.
You went shopping. You put $1,000 of your hard-earned money down on the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And you gave your aunt $1,000 towards insurance.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of car did you buy?
It was a 2007 Hyundai Accent.
And it was brand new.
Yes. Only had 5 miles on it.
And when did you purchase it?
February 8th.
And the understanding was that you were going to make the payments on the car and eventually, hopefully, get the loan out of your aunt's name because she didn't want to be responsible for this thing. And you were going to take care of the car, and there were certain things that you were supposed to be responsible with.
Yes, ma'am, after 6 months.
And your aunt took the car back after 2 months.
Correct.
You want the money that you invested in the car, and you want $600 back for the insurance that wasn't used because she took the car back. So you want back $1,600. Your aunt says that you were irresponsible with the car. In the 2 months that you had the car, you put on how many miles?
3,400.
3,400 miles. Where did you go for 3,400 miles?
Well, I went back and forth to work, and I did go over to my friend's house. I went over to their house because they asked me to come visit them every day. So I tried. I went back and forth to school every day after work because I go to school 4 days a week.
Where do you work?
Oh.
In what country? Now, did you loan the car to anyone?
No, ma'am.
Did you make any long trips?
I did one long trip, and that was to West Virginia.
From where?
From my house.
Which is where?
Maryland.
Who did you go with?
I went with my 2 sisters because they were up here visiting from Florida.
Did they ever drive your car?
No, ma'am.
Was there any damage to the car?
No, ma'am, not when I had it.
When did you take the car back, Miss Miller?
May 4th.
So she had the car 3 months?
Close to, yes.
Why did you take the car back?
Well, one of the agreements was that she was to stay in touch with us. She was not to have anybody in the car. She was on our insurance because the insurance was in excess to what she could afford. So we turned around.
Just a minute. Did you have an agreement with her that there wasn't to be anyone else in the car?
Prior to signing of anything, yes. I've had the same agreements. I've got my daughter here, Sherry, who is under the same agreement with a car that we have. And also with my other children. I have a 30-year-old son and a 28-year-old daughter. I've done it with all of them. You know, with the same agreements. I know, good heart, but you know what? It builds character and shows them responsibility. And yeah, I've been batting.
Do you have an agreement with your aunt not to have anyone else in the car?
No, ma'am.
What was the discussion that you had with regard to having other people in the car?
No, ma'am. The only agreement that we had with the car was not to let anybody drive the car and to make sure I make the payments on the car, and that was it.
Not to let anybody else drive it?
Yes, to drive it. That was it.
I believe you.
That was it.
I believe you.
Thank you.
I believe her.
Okay.
Because I think it's ridiculous to have an agreement that nobody else can be in the car.
Well, okay.
I believe that you made an agreement with her that nobody else was to drive the car.
Well, actually, well, okay.
But not be in the car. That sounds unreasonable for somebody who's making payments on the car, who's given you the down payment and paid for the insurance. The insurance may not cover anybody else driving the car,
Right.
but certainly being a passenger in the car. Why not? Keep going. So, she didn't keep in touch with you, and?
She didn't keep in touch, and when I tried to call her, she was avoiding the calls. I had to go through my father-in-law to call her to call back. My husband and I went up to her place of employment to where we looked at the car. There was dents, 4 of them, going down this way, not like a car had opened and hit it. The dents were going this way. And
You have pictures of the dents?
Oh,
that
I
you're
do,
talking
yes.
about? I'd like to see the dents that you're talking about.
this is the car. Dents. I've got an estimate also.
No, I don't need an estimate.
Okay, that's the dents.
Those are dings. There's a ding. It's a ding. It's nothing. You had no right to take the car back.
Okay.
So your counterclaim's dismissed because you're counterclaiming. You say you're now stuck with a car.
Hold on, Your Honor.
I didn't ask you anything. You're now stuck with a car that has 3,400 miles on it. It's depreciated. Well, you know, as soon as you drive a car out of the lot, it depreciates. But as long as she was making the payments, was she?
Yes, she was.
And she paid for the insurance.
Yes, she did.
The car looks perfectly good shape to me. It may have a couple of dings on it. That's unfortunate. But that doesn't look as if it's been in an accident. You had no mileage requirements. You have no basis to take the car back. Yes?
We did have mileage requirements, and the reason why she
No,
wasn't
you
allowed to-
didn't.
Yes, we did. We made an agreement with her.
Show me it written down someplace that you had a mileage agreement with her.
It was to keep the value of the car up.
Show me where you have an agreement with her
do
that
not
you have a
know.
mileage
It
agreement.
was a verbal agreement.
Baloney.
Just like the part with
Baloney.
the insurance.
Baloney.
Until she got it in her own name or her own insurance, she
Baloney.
wasn't
You had no
supposed to have
reason to
anybody
take the
in
car.
it.
Don't speak to me anymore. You had no reason to take the car back. Unfortunately, Miss Miller, you did a very nice thing for your niece.
I thought so.
You probably had second thoughts about it, but you didn't have a basis to breach the agreement and take the car back, her money, or you give her the car back. What's your pleasure?
Can I say something
Sure.
real quick? She assured me that no drinking, no partying, and everything else, and she was drinking and she was partying, but, you know.
Well, show me proof that she was drinking in the car.
Oh, I can't show you
Drinking
proof.
and driving.
No.
So,
Okay.
that's what you need. You need proof. Put your hand
Okay.
down. That's what you need. You need proof.
Okay.
Where's the car now?
In my yard.
You want your car back?
Can I speak?
Yes.
The whole drinking thing has nothing to do with it because I didn't do it when I was driving. And the car they gave to her daughter after they took the car from me. After like a week went by and they called me and told me, asked me if I want the car back. And I said no because they already took the car. And after that, I felt like, you know, since they took it from me once, they would do it again.
Did you get another car?
No.
How many miles are on the car now?
There's quite a bit.
What do you mean quite a bit? There was 3,400 miles when you took it. How many miles are on
Well,
the car
I
now?
drove it back and forth to work myself, and my daughter's driving. Okay.
You owe her $1,600. You had no basis to take the car back.
Can I get her to sign off on this title, or how do I have to?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You can get her to sign off on the title as soon as you get the bank to release her from the loan. Why would I have her sign the title off until you can get her off on the loan?
Okay, I can, yes.
Okay, so we'll cut an order that as soon as you get her off on the loan, she's going to sign off on the title, right?
Yes,
You don't want the
ma'am.
title in your name?
Nope, ma'am.
Very good. Judgment for the plaintiff, the amount of $1,600. Thank you.
Parties are excused. Step out, please.
Jeremy Bailing says his neighbor, 16-year-old Joey McQueen, attacked him with a crowbar. Joey is countersuing, claiming that he was assaulted by Jeremy's son.
Mr. McQueen, were you present during any of these incidents involving your son and the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor.
You may be seated. How old are you?
16.
You have an older brother?
Yes.
How old is he?
18.
Has he ever been in jail?
Uh,
The answer would be either yes or no. Has he ever been in jail?
no.
Has he ever been arrested?
Yes.
How many times?
Once.
Was the arrest involving the plaintiff?
No.
Involving somebody else?
No.
Involving what?
He got pulled over with drugs in the car
Was he alone or with other people?
with other people.
Mr. Bailing, the McQueens are neighbors of yours? Not next door neighbors, but they live in the same
They live
neighborhood.
about 4 blocks away, yeah.
And it is your claim that this young man assaulted you?
Yes, he did.
Assaulted you and injured you.
Yes, he did.
This young man says through his father that it was self-defense, but his father doesn't know that because his father wasn't there.
Self-defense?
That's what he says. And it's for us to find out. So tell me when this incident occurred.
Happened December 22nd on a Saturday evening. We were having a birthday party for my stepdaughter.
Who was how old?
She would be 14 that day. And she had 5 friends staying the night, having a slumber party.
5 girls?
5 other girls. And there was a couple boys there. They went down to her best friend's Chelsea's house, which is catty corner, half a block away, to get her birthday present. Well, when they come back, him and his buddy tried to run him over in his buddy's car.
Did you see that?
No, my witness seen that.
Step up. Who were you?
I'm Serena's mother. I didn't actually see it. They came running in the house and said...
Don't tell me what they said.
Okay.
Sit down.
Okay.
I'm disregarding that, sir.
Okay.
Nobody saw it.
Okay.
All right. About 9 o'clock, I come out of the house. All the kids are yelling, screaming. Him and his buddies at the end of my driveway with their car, screaming and cussing and yelling at her and all the kids out there.
Go ahead.
When I walked out, there was profanity, especially from him. I walked straight out.
What was he saying?
Calling her a B word, swearing, cussing. I'll beat your butt and...
Step up, please.
And all this.
Just a second. You are the mother of one of the girls.
Yes, ma'am.
And what's her name?
Serena Walker.
And I would assume that Serena came inside and told you something.
It was her boyfriend. Yeah.
Somebody, the Serena, somebody
Yes,
came and
ma'am.
told you something. You came outside.
Yes, ma'am.
You found your way to Mr. Bailing's house?
We live in the same house. This is my fiance.
Got it.
Okay.
So you came out of the house. How did he get there?
His friend named AJ drove him down there.
AJ drive you down there?
Oh, ma'am, I walked up there.
That's a lie.
Who's AJ?
My cousin,
How old is AJ?
18.
What kind of car does he have?
A white Aurora.
Was he with you that evening?
The girls hollered for him when we
Was he with you that evening?
Yes, ma'am.
How did he get to your house?
Came, drove down there.
In his...
White Aurora.
Do you drive a car?
No, ma'am.
What kind of car was in your driveway?
A white Aurora.
White Aurora.
So that you walked there, but your cousin went there by himself in the car? Is that what you're telling me?
No, the girls hollered for him to come over there.
My question is, you walked there and your cousin drove there. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes,
Did you get there before or after your cousin did?
before.
And what happened when you got there before your cousin?
I was standing there. And
Standing where?
in front of his driveway.
What were you doing in his driveway?
I was not in his driveway, I was in the road.
What were you doing in the road in front of his driveway?
Because his stepdaughter's boyfriend kept running his mouth every time he was out there.
Just a second. His stepdaughter's boyfriend kept running his mouth
Yes.
at whom?
At me.
Well, that evening, when had he seen you before?
At Chelsea's house.
What were you doing at Chelsea's house? Were you inside of
No,
Chelsea's
I was
house?
walking down the street.
So, stepdaughter's boyfriend had words with you outside of Chelsea's house.
Yes.
Then what?
And he started coming out to the street.
Towards you, away from you, towards their house, away from their house?
He was coming towards me and his girlfriend was pushing him back.
Okay. Go ahead.
It continued up to their house.
So they left.
No.
They went to their house.
He was
Just a second. They went to their house.
went towards their house.
And?
And he continued running his mouth. And then when we got in front of their house...
Just a second. What do you mean you got in front of their house? What are you following them for?
I don't know.
Somebody's starting up with you by running off with his mouth at you. You're going in the opposite direction. So you turn around and follow him back to the house.
He lives totally the
Just-
opposite way. Okay.
Do I look like I'm needing help? So you follow them, his stepdaughter and her boyfriend, back to stepdaughter's house for what purpose?
Try to get him to stop running his mouth to me because every time
He wouldn't have even heard you if you just kept walking, right?
All right.
Now, when you follow them back to the house, where was the white Aurora?
Across the street from the window. There's a window company right there. It was right in front of it.
You mean your cousin just happened to be there across the street in his white Aurora?
No, the girls that was with me hollered for him.
Well, where was he that she was able to holler for him and he was able to appear? What is he, Batman? Where do you think he was?
He was over at his grandma's house.
And where is that?
Next street over from Arbor.
Well, that's a long street. He must have a very big car. You get where I'm going?
Yes.
Okay. Now you're in front of this gentleman's house where you had no business being. And you have your cousin there in the white Aurora. And then what happened?
And Mr. Bentley came out there and he struck me in my face.
He just came out and struck you?
Yes.
Show me how he did that.
He put his hand on the ball and hit me in my face.
Punched you in the face?
Yes.
And what happened next?
I acted in self-defense and got my cousin's car and got a crowbar.
No, just a second. He punched you in the face.
Yes.
Then you walked across the street, opened the car, got a crowbar.
Yes.
Where was Mr. Bailing when you were getting this crowbar?
In the middle of the street.
He was in the middle of the street.
Yes.
So then you walked back to where he was.
Yes.
And what did you do?
That's when I hit him with it.
Hit him with what?
The crowbar.
Now, if you went over to the car, sir, to the white Aurora, I assume you're going to tell me that your cousin was in the car.
No, he was outside the car.
He was?
Yes.
When did he get outside the car?
After he struck me in the face.
And what did he do when he got outside the car?
He acted like he was going to hit him.
Who acted like he was going to hit whom?
AJ acted like he was going to hit Mr. Bailing.
Tell me what he did to show that he was going to hit him.
Like, jumped at him.
Jumped at him?
Yeah.
Did he jump at him before or after you got the crowbar?
After.
When you went over to the car, you could have gotten in the car, right?
Yes.
And left. You chose not to do that. If I believe that he punched you in the face. You have a... Do you?
Yes.
I'd like to see the police
We also
report,
have
please.
pictures of his head.
I'll get to
What's
that.
your first name?
Joseph?
Joseph. You were arrested for assault.
Yes.
You had a lawyer?
Yes.
Who hired the lawyer for you?
It's my uncle.
Your Honor.
I'm speaking. Your uncle represented you in the case involving the assault. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you went to court and you pled guilty.
Yes.
And when you pled guilty before the judge asked you what happened.
Yes.
And you told the judge what happened.
Yes.
And you were given community service as a punishment, right?
Yes.
Now you can stand up. Now, Mr. McQueen, I'm going to give you an elementary lesson in the law. Your son pled guilty. He pled guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That is tantamount to a conviction. This is a civil court. The quantum of proof, the necessary proof required in this court is much less than that is required in the criminal court. And in the criminal court, it doesn't make any difference whether you went to trial or whether you pled guilty. It's the same, proof beyond a reasonable doubt that you are guilty. So you are responsible for assaulting Mr. Bailing. If you legitimately felt that your defense of self-defense was a good one, and I'm sure that your uncle, the lawyer, knew that it was not, then you would have gone to trial and maybe been acquitted. You chose not to do that. You chose to plead guilty to the charges, or some of the charges emanating from this incident. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes.
And if you think that I believe half of what you just told me, I'm 5'7" and 42 years old. Thank you for not laughing. Police officer responded to the location on the 22nd, spoke to me. You are Jeremy Bailing?
Yes.
You are bleeding from the head.
Yep.
Bailing stated that two subjects known to him as Jay and Joey had followed his daughter to the front of his driveway. You asked them to leave your property?
Yes, I did.
Bailing stated that he pushed Joey to get him to leave his property. You would be Joey?
Yes.
At which point Joey hit him in the head several times with a crowbar.
6.
Mm-hmm.
He was defending himself, hitting me 6 times.
Can I ask a question, Your Honor?
Mm-hmm.
If it was such a problem, why wasn't the law called in the first place?
Mr. McQueen.
Be adult about it.
Mr. McQueen, you have 2 sons?
2 other sons.
Well, you have one son who was arrested for drugs. You have one son who pled guilty to assault. And the other one?
He's doing good.
He's doing good. These 2 aren't. How many times has AJ been arrested?
I don't know.
How many times has your cousin been arrested?
I don't know.
Any?
Yes.
Sure. So if you wallow around with pigs, you're going to get dirty. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because this report says that this AJ threatened to return with a gun and kill everybody. You're not doing your job, sir. If you have 3 sons and 2 of them have been arrested, and I don't know about the 3rd, but let's just say 2, that means something's not right with your parenting. Now, your son said that this guy made rude comments to him, so he went to Division Street to confront him. Which time Bailing came out to the end of the driveway, hit him, and he said he hit him back 1 time. He didn't say he hit him with a crowbar. What kind of community service did you have to perform?
I had to go to the church and help homeless people.
For how long?
I had to do 10 hours.
And then what happens to your conviction?
He's on it. And then he's got to do teen rap. He's on probation. He took the plea instead of fighting the courts and stuff.
Well, I assume that that was on the advice of his uncle.
You know, it's better than fighting the courts and stuff and going
You fight
through
the
it.
courts if you're innocent.
Right. But go ahead and let him take the plea and go ahead and face the charges.
Good. Fine. You go to school?
Yes.
What do you do after school?
Work out for football.
Are you on the football team?
Yes.
You work out every day for football?
Every day but one.
Sunday?
No, I don't.
Get a job.
I do.
You have?
Yes.
Fabulous. So you can pay your father back. I'd like to see the photographs, please. Has Mr. McQueen seen the photographs?
I gave them to the prosecuting attorney, so I'm sure they've seen it in the other court matter.
Did you?
Your Honor.
You have not?
No.
Well, I'm just going to show you the one in his head. Would you give this to Mr. McQueen, please?
Yeah, I still have a scar for that one in the head right here.
Got to watch him. On the complaint, the court is awarding the plaintiff $2,500. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. The counterclaim is dismissed without prejudice because there are no witnesses here. That's all. Thank you.
Brandon Book says his mother, Mary Nixon, owes for a title loan on a car and for a loan to pay court fines.
Mr. Book, the defendant is your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
And your complaint alleges that she owes you some money.
Yes, ma'am.
One from a loan, the other from another loan that you took out against your car in order to buy your mother a car.
Yes, ma'am.
Car that she ultimately surrendered, owing money on it, and you're paying substantial amounts of money for the time that she, in fact, had the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Your mother says that while she acknowledges that you did some nice things for her, she said that all of that were gifts that you made to her, and she is counterclaiming. She alleges that you gave away some property that belonged to her deceased husband, who was not your father. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And also a wedding ring that she wants back. Okay, so tell me about the first loan, sir.
The first loan was for down payment for her car. She came to me on April 27th of 07, and she asked me if she could go get a car. I took her to a local dealership where her credit qualified her for a car. However, she didn't make enough money to support a car. So they asked me if I would sign for it. The agreement was that she made the payments, and I agreed to it, and so I co-signed for her. However, they needed a down payment. So they asked me if my truck was paid for, and I said yes, it was. So we went to a local financial institution, and they took out the title loan for $2,500. Plus
A title loan?
Yes, ma'am.
Which means that your truck was now encumbered.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And they asked for an additional $200 deposit for the insurance. So while we were doing the agreement, we were signing all the paperwork. My mother looked at me and she asked me if this was okay. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, I will pay you back as soon as I get my VA benefits. I said, yes, ma'am, that's not a problem.
What VA benefits?
When her husband passed away, we went to the local Veterans Affairs office in Lake Charles, and they said that she qualified for some death benefits. So they put all the paperwork in, and they said that she was going to be awarded it.
Did they say how much she would be
No,
getting?
ma'am, they didn't say how much. They gave us like a monthly statement of what she would get. If she got the full amount, $7 a month. If she got the other one, it was like $6.11 a month.
And how much were the car payments a month?
The car payments were $371.
Okay. So you took out this title insurance, and what happened?
What happened is 2 weeks after she got the car, she lost her job. So I had to figure out some way of having to pay it, both my loan, her loan, and supporting everybody, because her and my sister were living in the house along with my wife and my child.
So you have a wife?
Yes, ma'am.
Child, your mother, and sister were living with you.
And at one time we had my other sister and her 2 kids living with us as well.
And who was supporting them?
I was.
It's outrageous.
It's family.
Good boy. What are you saying no for?
Because it's lies.
Well, come up here and tell me what's the lie about it. First, tell me your first name.
My first name is Mary. My last name is Book.
Very good. Uncross your arms. Is it a lie that you lived with your brother?
No, that's not a lie.
Is it a lie that he helped support you?
No, that's not a lie either.
Well, that's what he said.
No, he said that he co-signed for the car, which is a lie.
Listen to me. I'm talking about the car. You said that's a lie. She lived with him. You lived with him. Your other sister, for a period of time, lived with him, and her 2 children. And he was supporting you, because I assume you weren't working. Is that right?
That's right.
Why weren't you working?
Because I had no way to work. Because he got my car, and so my mom took sell my car to buy him the
That's
house.
not true, Your Honor.
I have the check.
Just a second.
They sold my car for $6,000, and that got the down payment to the trailer that he now lives in.
Okay, and when was that?
October of last year.
How long did you live in the trailer where he and his wife and child are living?
They got the trailer in October.
Right.
I moved out in December with my sister.
So you lived there 3 months?
Yes, ma'am.
Then she came back.
Did you come back?
I moved in to an apartment.
Did you come back?
Later.
When?
March or June.
Was it March or June? Those are very different months.
April, March, somewhere in between there.
And how long did you stay? Until when?
I moved out in March again, and I didn't come back until May. And then I moved in back in May, and then we moved out for good in June.
So you lived there about 6 months altogether. And how long did your mother live there?
The whole time. From October to June.
Oh, then of course she gave him money for the trailer. Did you give him any other money when you lived there?
I gave him some money after the check came in. I paid 2 house notes. I paid a light bill.
So you had a house note?
Yes, ma'am.
In addition to the deposit on the trailer?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course. So, other than that, she gave him money because she had you, she had your other sister, she had herself, her sister's 2 children. They lived with him. He's paying a house note, and she gave him a $6,000 deposit on the trailer. Now you can sit down. That's what you're supposed to do. If you and your whole family want to move in with your son and you gave him a $6,000 deposit on a trailer and he's making the house payments on it for you and your family to live in, that's what you're supposed to do.
But, Your Honor, I moved my mobile home I was living in for 14 years off of my property for him to put his mobile home there.
So what?
He told me he would never, ever say anything about me not working. He did not mind me living there because I did this for him.
And I'm telling you, he's not supposed to say that to you. You moved your whole family into the trailer that he was making the payments on. You lived there from October until June. She lived there for 6 months. Your other daughter and her 2 children lived there for 6 months. Who do you expect to pay for that? Every adult pays rent. You're a grown-up. So if you gave him $6,000 at the beginning of your stay, instead of making periodic payments, then what difference does it make? Look at it that way. But don't make yourself a victim. You're not a victim. Children don't support their 46-year-old parents. Parents support their children. How much money did it cost you when your mother surrendered this truck?
It was the car that she had to surrender, Your Honor. It didn't cost me anything. I tried to tell her about it. I went to her work with this document right here showing that if she surrenders the car, that they would give us a 0 deficiency on the auto loan. So I approached her at work with this, and when I approached her at work, she got really defensive about it. And when I told her, I said, look, all you got to do is just surrender the car. They'll give you a 0 deficiency. We don't owe anything, but they don't owe us. We don't owe them. It's like it never happened. She refused. She immediately responded back saying that that's it. You have 10 days to get that trailer off my land, and I'm cutting your lights off.
So tell me what happened with the car. Did you surrender the car?
Yes, I did.
When?
The next Wednesday.
So what money are you out, Mr. Book?
The title loan on my vehicle. Well, in order to get her car, we had to put a down payment. That's where the title loan on my vehicle came on for her car.
I see. And the title loan was for how much?
$2,500.
So that you're not out any money for the loan, but you are out money for the title loan.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you actually took that money and put it down as a down payment. That's why you had no money that was owing if she turned the car in.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand. All right, now I'm ready to hear you, Miss Nixon. He's out $2,500 because you couldn't make the payments on the car.
Okay, whenever I got the car, he came, woke me up one morning and said, Mama, you want a car? And I'm like, well, I would like one, but I can wait for my money to come in. Because I didn't want a car note, really, because I really didn't make enough for a car note and insurance and everything else. So I said, I'll wait. And he goes, well, Mom, I got him on the phone. He wants to talk to you. And I'm like, Brand, I don't want a car right now.
That's not true.
It would be nice to have a car.
Just a second. You know what happens, unfortunately, Miss Nixon, to some people when they're telling a lie? They get blotches on their chest.
I know, I just get nervous.
No. A man that's supporting a wife and child and supporting a sister and another sister and 2 children and a mother who I'm sure doesn't make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, doesn't come in and twist his mother's arm to get a car. Baloney. You're not supposed to put your children in debt because you don't work. That's not what mothers are supposed to do.
I did not want the car. I told him I would wait.
Then you shouldn't have taken it. You're 46 years old.
He went to the car dealership
without
and said,
you.
I'm going to...
Just a second. Without you?
He went with me.
Did he drag you there? Miss Nixon, did he drag you there?
No, he said he wanted to go pick out him something.
Miss Nixon, you are so full of baloney. You owe him $2,400 first for that. What else does she owe you for, sir?
Whenever she was in Washington State, she was supposed to be gone for only a week and a half. She had 2 jobs, working at Walmart and working at Sears. She went to Washington on a one-way ticket to see my friend, and she was gone.
What was she doing seeing your friend?
Were talking on MySpace kind of thing, and
so a boyfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
She was grieving and went to see a boyfriend. How long was she gone?
She was gone for 3 months.
3 months. This was, I assume, before she got the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And I was contacted by a Sergeant Mouton of the Calvary Parish Sheriff's Department looking for her. I was then like, what does she do now? So I call her, tell her what's going on. Apparently she had had some checks that she had written back $6.97 for very little, like $25, $30, however they just caught up with her. And they were looking for her to satisfy those checks. Then when she came back, I still supported her, tried to get her through the hard times. She just didn't take the hint, and I was getting really tired of it.
How much money did it take to clear the checks?
$150.
Did you tell your mother about it?
Yes, ma'am.
Who cleared the checks, you or your mother?
I did.
Where was she when you cleared the checks?
Being arrested at the time.
Is that right?
Well, not exactly. Like, I'm,
She's not a horrible mother.
No.
Did he pay $150 to
From
get
selling
you
the cabinets that he sold out of my house. I was upset at him. He gave away everything.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
Everything in my house. He gave away my cabinets.
Just a second. Give me the month and year he gave away.
February.
February of what year?
Of this year.
And when did you move out of the trailer?
I moved out in July.
You couldn't have been that upset.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not going to disown my child. I'm not going to do that to him.
You couldn't have been that upset. If he gave away the stuff in February, you didn't sue him. March, you didn't sue him. April, you didn't sue him. May, you didn't sue him. June, you didn't sue him. July, you didn't sue him. August, you didn't sue him. September, you didn't sue him. So if he gave away your stuff, he gave away your stuff. What's next?
The ring.
Whose ring is it?
Mine.
It's actually ours.
No, it's mine.
Well, how did his wife end up with the ring?
I told her and him that I would let them use my ring as a token of because it was special to me.
Just a minute, you told them that you would let them use their ring?
Until he could buy one for her. And if they broke up and she moved out, that I was to get the ring. Yes, ma'am, I'm honored.
Fine. But first of all, A, I don't believe you, because I think that that's a lot of baloney that you just told me. But B, even if what you told me was true, let's see what you just said. You said you are letting them use the ring until he can buy her a new one, which he can't. Or until they break up, which they have not. Or if she moves out, which she has not.
But she did in between this time.
Oh, tell me when.
She moved out.
Just tell me when.
She moved out during the summertime.
Did you sue her then?
No, I didn't.
Goodbye, Miss Nixon. You got a problem. You owe your son $2,550. Judgment for the plaintiff. Your counterclaims dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Isla Wiley says her former roommate, Paris Scott, owes for unpaid rent and utilities and car damage. Paris claims she was a guest in Isla's home, but never a roommate.
Miss Wiley, according to your complaint, the defendant was a friend of yours. She ran into some difficulty. You allowed her to move into your apartment. You claim that the agreement was that she would pay you rent. She did not pay you rent or her share of the utilities, which was also part of your agreement, and you want her to pay you for that. According to you, prior to that, she had borrowed your car, took it to a party, and it came back damaged. You want her to pay for the car damage. Ms. Scott says that there was never a rental agreement between the two of you. You were doing something to be kind to her, and that you only became angry with her when she had some sort of a private conversation with your boyfriend and told him some things that were very personal that she knew about you. You became angry, told her to leave, and then concocted the story about rent. And she would like her personal property back. You indicate that you do have her personal property, and that personal property she's going to get within 5 days of today. She can come either with a marshal or by herself to retrieve her property. Please have it ready for her. So I've taken care of your counterclaim.
Okay.
Understood?
Yes.
Good. Now, let's take care of your claim. How long do you know each other?
About 5-6 years.
And when did she move into your apartment?
February 2009.
Where was she working at the time?
Forever 21.
How long has she been working there?
I'm not for sure. Maybe about a few months, 3 or 4 months prior.
And who had you been living with before?
Me, I've always lived by myself.
Perfect. That's the way you should keep it, Miss Wiley. I mean, as far as roommates are concerned, you can certainly meet somebody and decide to set up housekeeping. But as far as taking in a roommate, it's always a problem. What made you open your house to her?
I've known her for a long time. I thought she was a good friend. She didn't have a lot of friends because of run-ins that she's had with her other friends. And then on top of that, she was always coming to my house. She was always crying. She was always upset because she had got into an argument, or she was fighting with her dad, or, you know, they were having disagreements. So it was total drama. And I told her that, you know, my house is always open if you want to come stay here. So then she asked me, like, how much would it be if I rented? And I told her you would have to pay half rent, which would be about $850 or more a month, including utilities. And she said that would be perfectly fine because she's working, and then that on top of that, you know, her mother and her father would help her with rent. So I told her that would be okay, and so I allowed her to start, you know, slowly and gradually moving her things in.
How many bedrooms do you have?
It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath.
So she moved into one of the bedrooms?
Yes.
In February. And when did she leave?
She left in May when I told her to move her things.
You were working all that time?
Yes, I was.
Why didn't you pay her rent?
Because we never had an agreement to pay rent.
Why would she take care of you? You moved into her apartment. You had your own bedroom. You have your own bathroom. Why wouldn't you pay her rent?
Because the only time that I came to stay with her, my father did have problems.
I don't care what the reason is. How old are you?
I'm 21.
Well, 21 years old.
And
you
I
have
was
a
still
job.
living with my family.
You have a job. Are you telling me you didn't live with her?
I stayed with her from time to time. I didn't live with her for a constant, like, month after month.
I'm sorry, she did live with me.
I did stay with her, and I would go home or stay with someone else.
Hey, your problem is you don't have a mind, because if you had a mind, you would remember what you signed, which was your sworn statement. You want me to read it to you?
You can if you want.
We never once had a conversation about rent prior to me moving in. In April, my family was evicted from their place and was scrambling to find a new home. She allowed my family also to store new things in her apartment. Although I stayed there part of the time, I did bounce from place to place.
Yes. I never moved in permanently. She let me stay there.
Give me the name of the people that you bounced to.
My witness, I teach, and then I went back home with my family.
Last name?
Hampton.
When did she stay with you?
She started staying at my house in May, the beginning of May.
May?
Yes.
Thank you. You may sit down. We're not interested in May. We're interested in February, March, and April.
I never moved in February. I was still at home. She doesn't have a specific date that I moved in.
What stuff do you have at her house that you're counterclaiming for?
I do have a suitcase of clothes.
So you have clothes?
Yes.
What else do you have? You said you have my personal...
Like, in the suitcase, I have, like, a mirror that my sister bought me for Christmas. The suitcase is stuff that we were packing up from the house that my family had to move out of. That's why that suitcase is there. I do have clothes there when I would stay with her. That's the other stuff.
I want to know where else you would bounce to. You said you bounced.
I would go back home. I would go back home and stay with my family.
They were evicted in April.
No, they weren't.
Yes, you said my family was evicted in April.
Not in April, because we just moved out.
In April 2009, my family was evicted from their place.
I never said in April that...
Would you show this to her, please? That's your statement. That's your signature at the bottom.
I know what it says.
So is it wrong?
My family did not get evicted in April. They were still at their house.
So I'm asking you a question. When you wrote that down and swore to it, it was wrong.
Yes, the date is wrong.
Give it back to me. How much rent did you pay your family?
I never paid rent for my family.
Well, you got to pay somebody rent, madam.
I never moved in. We never had an agreement.
You got to pay somebody rent where you're living.
If we had an agreement, yes, I would pay rent. If I never signed anything...
You don't have to sign anything. If we signed it, then I'd be out of a job. Signed it makes it easy.
So
now, let us say I believe you, which I don't, that you weren't there all the time, you didn't live there, you never formally moved in, you never signed anything, whatever else it was. Then she was just being nice to you, right?
Because she was my friend.
She was being nice to you, right?
Yes.
You explain to me why you gossiped behind her back to her boyfriend?
I did not gossip behind her back.
Really?
Her boyfriend texted me when she left for her cruise to Mexico. He texted me and asked, can I talk to you because I have issues with my girlfriend, Isla. I never responded back to him.
You never respond, so you never had any conversation with him?
No.
No, so just a second. So you never, well, then you must be wrong that you never had any conversation with him.
She is wrong.
You want me to call him and find out?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
The only time me and him talked was the night we were going out, all of us. And he asked me, Paris, I have a feeling that something's going on. And I told him, if you really believe something is going on, why don't you guys take a break so you can figure out your thing and she can figure out hers. She has been having issues with her boyfriend.
Jealous.
Yeah.
She's jealous.
Exactly.
Right. Did she have an arrangement with you to pay rent?
Yes, ma'am, she did.
Yeah, I believe she did too. When did she move in February?
She moved in actually 2 days after Valentine's Day, so I'd say the 16th.
So we're going to discount February. We're going to go right to March and April.
Yes, ma'am.
Those 2 months. And your total rent is what?
I would say $850.
Okay, so she was supposed to pay $4 1/4?
Yes, ma'am.
Now tell me about the car.
Well...
Make sure I get it right. Do you understand?
Yes. Okay, well, the night before, she drove my car. She had to rent a car because she did not have a vehicle. She went down to the club, and I guess she had the windows busted out. Somebody busted out the windows and stole her belongings.
In the rental car?
In her rental car, yes.
What did they steal?
They stole my purse.
You left your purse in the rental car?
In the trunk, yes.
Go ahead.
So then, with the rest of her problems that she always had, she came to me crying, saying that somebody stole her things, she had nothing, and that she needed to use my vehicle. Because every excuse with using my vehicle was, my family doesn't have food, my family doesn't have money, my sister's left at school, my brother's left here, my brother's left here, can you please let me use your vehicle? So she always used my vehicle. So she got her windows busted or whatever, so the very next night, she wanted to go downtown, and I said, you could use my car. Please be careful.
And? Right.
So she came back with the vehicle. She actually came back with her boyfriend, and they got off the car, and I came outside, and I'm like, what happened to my car? She goes, what do you mean, what happened to my car? I'm like, my car is keyed. And it's really obvious. You could see it at night. The whole car was keyed. Somebody ran the whole key through it all around the frame, everything. And then somebody even kicked it in. Then she told me, oh, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened, but I'll help you fix it, or I'll fix it.
Just a second. Did anybody that you know see what happened to the car?
No.
Okay, so what happened to the car was a criminal act.
Correct.
And she had your permission to drive the car.
Yes, ma'am.
She's not responsible for it.
Okay.
She's not responsible for someone else's criminal acts that are done to your car if she had the car with your permission. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. But she certainly owes you for rent. Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Very good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $850. Make arrangements to pick up your suitcase within 5 days. Okay. Understood? Mm-hmm. That's all.
Please excuse me. Step out.
April Franks is suing Angela and Jean Roberts for the return of money she paid for a female Yorkie poo. April says the couple sold her an emotionally damaged animal.
Bert, would you please take the Roberts' little girl outside, please?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Come with me.
Miss Franks, you purchased a dog, I assume this dog, from the defendants.
Yes.
You called them within 24 hours telling them that the dog had some problems. You wanted to return the dog. You ultimately did return the dog. You want your money back.
Yes.
The Roberts seem to believe that they had no responsibility with regard to the dog's condition that you found that was intolerable for you. And they said that they sold the dog, I assume, as is. This is what you get. Mrs. Roberts.
From a breeder in Tupelo.
A breeder?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
It was the end of November, 2007.
Do you have the date?
Not the exact date.
Was it after Thanksgiving?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's give it a date of the 28th of November. And I assume you bought the dog because you have one young child?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she go with you to the breeder?
No, ma'am.
You and your husband went?
Just my husband.
You went?
Yes, ma'am.
How many dogs did the breeder have for sale?
I have no idea how many he had to sell. I think 2. And this is the
How many did you see?
I met him in a town in between where we lived, and he just brought Carly here.
So you didn't go to the breeder's house?
No, ma'am.
So you don't know where he got the dog from?
No, ma'am.
Did you find this person on the internet?
No, in an ad in the trade winds paper, a sales paper that we have in our area.
And he told you he had a dog?
Right.
And don't come to my house, I'll meet you halfway, or I'll meet you someplace.
Right.
And they gave you the dog. Did he tell you how old the dog was?
Yes, ma'am.
How old did he say?
At the time, she was 18 months.
And how much did you pay for this 18-month-old dog?
$200.
Did he say why he was selling an 18-month-old dog?
No, he didn't.
Did you discuss this with your wife before you went?
I spoke to the gentleman on the phone about her.
And what did the gentleman, I'm just curious, so even though I'm not taking this for the truth of it, I'd like to know what the gentleman told you about this dog.
He told me that he had 31 dogs and he was trying to downsize on some of his dogs, and that she had already been bred once and she had 6 puppies at the time, and he thought it was too many for her and he was going to sell her and her sister. And he was originally trying to sell both of the dogs, her and her sister. I do not know anything about the other dog. And I told him that we were only interested in buying 1 dog instead of 2, and he said that he would split them up and sell her to us. And we did discuss whether to come to his house or not, but he decided that he
didn't want you at the house if it's in fact true that he had 31 dogs.
Probably.
Probably. Did he want cash or a check?
We just gave him cash. That's all we had.
Of course. So you gave him cash, and then you bring the dog home, and what happened, Miss Roberts?
She was nervous dog. She shook for probably the first month we owned her.
1 month she shook?
Yes, ma'am. And after about a month, when we were around her, she stopped shaking. But the only thing that she ever did the entire time we've ever had her is just sit in your lap. Even after sitting in your lap for a long period of time, she wouldn't indicate that she would want to get down and go eat. We'd have to take her back there to the room we keep her in at night, and she'd eat and take care of her business, and then after that she would scratch on the door, give a little bit of a whining whimper, and want to come out and sit back in your lap again. We tried to get her to play because we did buy her for my 9-year-old. She wanted a little dog to play with, and she's just not a playful dog. She's just a lap dog. So
she's probably from a puppy mill.
Well, when we took her to the vet, that's what he said. He said that either being in a kennel, he said either being in a kennel,
caged in a kennel, and probably came from a puppy mill.
Yes.
So what did you do?
Well, we held on to her for a little bit longer, hoping that maybe she would come out of her shell a little bit and play. And when we were convinced after about 3 months of owning her, she was not ever going to be the playful dog for our daughter that we
So now she's
saw.
almost 2 years old.
Yes, ma'am. And after that, we decided that what we would do was try to sell her so that we could take that money and buy a playful puppy for my child.
So you put an ad in the paper?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did the ad say?
It's right here.
What does
it
it say?
says, CKC Yorkie Poo female, small dog, approximately 1.5 years old, 5 to 6 pounds, good health, mostly house trained, 400, call my husband, and our phone number listed.
That's not the ad that I responded to.
Can I see the ad that you
Yes, it's right
responded
here.
to?
It's highlighted in pink. I was in Columbus only.
Yorkie Poo, CKC, I don't know what that means because they're not AKC registered because she's a mixed breed.
Yes, ma'am, it's Continental Kennel Club.
Approximately 1 year old.
Which she's approximately.
Do I look like I'm needing help from you?
No.
Approximately 1 year old, mostly housebroken, good health, small, 5 to 6 pounds, $400, asked for Jean. Is that you?
That's my husband.
That's you. Well, that's the ad. Trade winds classified.
This one is the Trading Post. We did take one out in the Trading Post and the Trade
Well, this is the one she responded to. So immediately your ad is wrong because the dog was not a year old.
I guess so.
And you were asking for this dog that is now older and you know has certain problems twice as much as what you paid for it.
Correct.
Okay. So you came to the house and?
I went to their house. Carly was sitting in a recliner. She didn't get up or anything when I walked in. She got her and she put on the ground on the floor and she walked around and I oohed and awed over for a few minutes. She was shaking and Angie told me it was because, you know, she didn't like strangers is what she said. And so, you know, I said, okay, you know, that could be possible. And I petted her and picked her up and I said that I wanted to get her. And so I left her house. I went to the ATM machine and I withdrew $400 and I went right back and I gave her the money when I got back. She had the CKC certification paper, her pamper pads because she's not housebroken or mostly at all, and a doggy soap.
Just 1 second. Are you telling me that you had this dog for 3 months and the dog wasn't housebroken?
She's puppy pad trained, which I consider mostly housebroken because she only goes on the puppy pads.
No. It's probably one of the reasons that you wanted out of the dog. Because the dog was a puppy mill dog. The dog was not used to being in a house and being let out. Yeah, sure it is. Okay, you returned the dog when?
That evening after I left, I went to Walmart and I bought food for her. I bought her a bed and some toys. And, you know, the night progressed and she just wasn't acting like I thought she would act. I'm not a professional. So the next morning, I said the best thing I'm going to do is take Carly to the vet. So I took her to the vet, which the office where Amy works, and the vet examined the dog, and I have an animal report here.
I'd like to see it, please.
As well as the invoice.
On February 26, 2008, I examined the above-listed animal because of a complaint of severe emotional issues. The animal would crouch down in the corner and urinate all over itself when touched. It was my opinion that the animal was experiencing fear, anxiety, and the owner would be better off returning the animal to the previous owner. Animals exhibiting such fear, anxiety have special needs that the average pet owner usually is unable to give.
The time we took the dog to the vet was after the fact that April returned her.
They just took the dog to the vet.
You mean you never took the dog to the vet when you got her?
She never urinated on herself or crouched down in
I'm
the corner.
just asking you why you never took the dog to the vet.
No, ma'am.
Have either of you ever had pets before?
We have quite a few.
Well, then you knew that this dog's behavior was most unusual.
I was told by several other people, we've never had a small dog like this before.
Right. You have to give her money back. Stop nonsense. You try to unload the dog on somebody else for twice as much as what you paid for it. I mean, usually when a breeder wants to unload an 18-month-old or a 19-month-old dog, they usually give them away to try to find good homes. This guy found a sucker who was willing to pay $200 for it. That doesn't mean that you, when you have the dog, I mean, you're supposed to be reputable people. I don't know about this person who's running a puppy mill, but you're supposed to be reputable people. That means that you got I'm going to find somebody else to stick with this dog and charge him twice as much.
Right.
That's outrageous. You have the dog? Give her back the papers, please. You owe her $400. That's all.
Damian Ibarra says that foster aunt and uncle, Martha and Juan Hernandez, scammed him for over $4,000.
Mr. Ibarra, how old are you, sir?
22.
And what kind of work do you do?
I'm actually disabled right now, but I'm an EMT.
When was the last time you worked, Mr. Ibarra?
11/8 of 07.
And what kind of work were you doing then?
I was working on an ambulance as an EMT.
Did you become disabled on your job?
Yes.
Your lawsuit alleges that these people, who you refer to as a foster aunt and uncle, borrowed money from you and did not return it. Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez say that the money that they acknowledged that they took from you was for rent that you owed them. So can you tell me, Mr. Ibarra, how you know these people?
Basically, my foster parents, who I grew up with off and on, these are their cousins, basically. Well, you know, this is...
So you knew them through your foster parents?
Yes, I did.
How old were you when you left your foster parents' home?
I was about 16 years old.
Did you ever live with Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
When?
Between January and February of 2008 for 2 months.
And where did you go after you left them?
I moved in with Elsie Vergara here.
And who is she?
She's basically my landlord.
So you moved into her home?
Yes.
And where were you living prior to January of 08?
I was living in South Central Los Angeles.
With whom?
By myself.
Okay. Tell me about the money that you gave to Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez.
Okay. First of all, there was $1,936 that I had sent in. At the time, I didn't have an account of my own because I messed up. I had problems. And I had it sent into their business account.
What sent into their
my tax refund.
And when was that put in their account?
That was put in April, I believe April 14th.
All right, let's get to that money, Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez. You acknowledge your account in April.
Yes.
What was it put into your account for?
To pay that rent that he owed me from December through April.
He didn't live with you in April?
He did.
No, he didn't. He didn't live with you in April.
He did live in April with me, Judge Judy.
Really?
None of that is true.
Yes. He moved in the middle of June to his friend's house.
And how much rent were you charging him?
Actually, he's supposed to rent a room for $480, but he only paid me partial rent, which it was $300 even, and paid me until February the other part of the money. It was $180 that he paid me.
Not true.
But in December, when I went to check the house, he was living in the master room, and I don't know why, because he just moved in without my authorization. He didn't pay me, and he stayed there since, until June, the middle of June.
None of that is true, ma'am.
Stand up, please. Tell me your name.
Not one word of it.
My name is Elsie Vergara. I'm his landlord. He's living in my house right now.
When did he move into your house?
He moved in February 2008, the 28th to be exact. And I had the contract for that also.
You have the contract?
Yes.
I'd like to see it, please.
Take that out. Right here. And all the check stubs and every single payment he has made since then is also there.
You have any proof that he lived in your house in April, May, and June?
Actually, I have only my papers because he is a family. I would never give him anything.
My question is, do you have any proof that he lived in your house April, May, and June?
No.
Well, then you owe him $1,936 so far. What other money did you give them?
After this, I mean, I was very angry. I'm going to get to it quick, by the way. I just need to tell you a little something. I was very angry, of course, because they did this without my authorization. They took out my money, and I was calling the IRS constantly, asking where my return was, and they were telling me that I should have received it.
I got you.
And but anyways,
they used your money,
right, but
without permission.
They
shouldn't have.
They came to me later on asking me for more money so that they can finish a $16,000 job that they said they were going to do, and that they were going to pay me all of my money with interest if I lent them $3,000 more.
Now, where would you get this money from?
I have a copy here of my scholarship that I cashed, and I paid to them. I know it's very stupid of me to do this, but they came to me.
Can I see the proof of that, please?
They came to me asking for this money to finish the job, to pay me the money.
Why did you go to him asking him for more money?
I didn't ask him for no money. He's lying, Your Honor. He's a liar.
Just one second. Just a second. Up. Is what you're telling me that you never took, because I have check with your signature on it. Are you telling me that you never took any other money from him to complete a job other than the tax return? Are you telling me that you never took any other money from him?
I never took any money from him, Your Honor. He's lying. He's making all this because he wants money. He lives from people.
Just a second.
He's been faking what he has.
Hey.
That's a lie, man, but I also have here bank statements.
I want you just to show me a check.
That's just the check that I cashed for my scholarship, man.
Okay.
And,
show me where you gave them money.
okay.
It's over there.
Oh,
no,
sure.
this just says withdrawal.
Right. This is all I have. I have documentation of all of it.
No, you don't have documentation of anything.
Well, I have it all documented down every time because they refused to sign a contract because it was family, they were saying.
Mr. Ibarra, I can't help you with that, sir. You have different withdrawals on different dates, $200.
Those are all, I'm sorry, man.
All I want you to do is show me proof that you gave them any of this other money. The ninth, definitely yours. But you show me that you gave them any other money. This is not proof.
I don't.
Well, then how am I supposed to make that determination?
You know what, ma'am? She was present for every time they came over to ask for money.
What?
And that I gave them money.
That's a lie.
She was present there because she didn't trust them in her house.
Oh, my God.
And even when the contract was made between me and them, well, the verbal contract between me and them, and I had told them flat out, I was very, very mad that I didn't want to give them one more penny because they had already stolen my money for my taxes. They were begging me, saying they were going to get a $16,000 job and that they were going to pay me with interest, and that to just lend them $3,000 more because they knew, them being family and us being close at the time, that I had gotten
close at the time. They had already taken your money.
But they had already known because of their other family that I had gotten my scholarships and everything. So they came over asking for that, and I told them I'll see what I can do.
Mr. Ibarra, you have a problem, sir. Now, you had a bank account, and all you had to do was give them checks. Then we would have no problem. You didn't do that.
They needed the money immediately.
No. Sorry. I don't buy it. Mr. Ibarra.
I mean, I'm not lying
to you, ma'am,
honestly. I don't even pay her with checks. I pay with cash.
Mr. Ibarra, you're a very smart young man. These are people who, according to you, had already scammed you, correct?
Yes.
Well,
I was stupid. I mean, they were my family, close. To be honest with you, ma'am,
once family scams you, do you ever hear the expression, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me?
Right.
Right.
Can I just have 1 second, man, please? When I relent them the money, it was right after the time that they had taken the taxes, and I was still contacting the IRS for quite some time, which I have documented here, and they were telling me that to give it a little more time, that sometimes these things take time.
When were you finally notified by IRS? Just a second. When were you notified by IRS that your refund check into their account?
To be honest with you, ma'am, they never notified me that they took the money out.
When did IRS notify you?
This was at about...
Give me the month.
This was in June, the same month that I began lending.
You have withdrawals made in June 30th,
Yes.
June 25th, July 7th, and July 8th.
Yes.
So you already knew that they had appropriated your money.
It was right after that.
I can't help you, Mr. Ibarra, with regard to the other money.
1 second, man, please, please. I mean, they were giving me the runaround, telling me they hadn't got it, and when I finally found out that they had got it, because the IRS finally told me in June.
Well, I got that. That's
right,
exactly
when they
what
finally
I said to you.
told me all of that was when I already had begun lending them the money, and I kind of felt like I'm not going to get any of my money. I got to at least lend them it to do the job so that they can pay me.
And you're telling me that after all of that, you gave them more money, knowing they had lied, scammed you, just as lied, scammed you, stolen your money, and with this very, very careful lady there, you gave them more money. Because most of the money... Yes, you did. That's what it says here.
Not yet. I didn't know those things yet.
Yes, you did, according to you.
No.
Mr.
If you
Ibarra.
have there, I started withdrawing it in June 23rd.
Mr. Ibarra, I cannot help you with that money.
Ma'am, please, 1 second. Let me explain myself a little bit further.
You explained yourself,
No,
Mr.
seriously,
Ibarra.
honestly. I mean...
You explained yourself,
The whole thing
Mr.
is, though, I have not explained myself. The whole thing is that they were very, very close to me. They're the only family I have left, and I didn't want to lose them, okay? So I was being very, very naive. She was trying to knock some sense into me, and I really, really believed that they were paying me. They told me no later than the next month, and so I was lending them the more money because I figured if they didn't have the money because they do cabinetry, I have seen them do $20,000 jobs, and so it didn't seem far-fetched to me at all.
You want to answer him, Mrs. Hernandez? Don't look at paper. You want to answer him?
He's lying all this time. He's lying. We didn't owe him a single dime.
No, I didn't ask you whether you owed him a single dime. I asked you whether he gave you any money in June or July.
He didn't give me no money at all. He owes me money because he came to my husband asking for money 3 times.
When?
In January, he came and asked him money. And in February, he only gave me partial rent.
Never. I'm not talking about rent. Forget about rent. Stop playing with rent. I asked you very simply, did he give you any money?
He didn't give me
Who are you?
Her daughter.
Get up. Over there. Did Mr. Ibarra give your parents any money in June or July of 2008 that you know about?
No.
Sit. You, up. What kind of work do you do?
Cabinets.
How are you related to him?
That's my dad.
Good. Stand there. How long have you been working for your father?
I've been working off and on because I travel a lot.
How long have you been working for your father?
Since 2003.
Very good. In 2008, did your family have a very big cabinet job? Look at me. 2008, did your family have a very big cabinet job?
No.
Nothing in 2008.
They did have, but not a big one.
What kind of cabinet job did they have in 2008?
Well, we got stuck with the same job because of construction change of order.
Explain that to me.
During the process.
What process?
Because I guess the inspector didn't pass the job, and we were stuck with all the merchandise inside the shop.
What merchandise?
The owner's merchandise, the one we were working for.
So the job that you did was not passed by the inspectors?
Mm-hmm. Lies.
Hey! I'm going to dismiss your case. Do you understand? The job that your father did not pass inspection, and you were stuck with what merchandise?
Well, our job wasn't even done yet because the other job before that one wasn't done yet. So.
So that you couldn't use because the other part of the job didn't pass inspection. Is that what happened, Ms. Hernandez?
Yes.
So you had all this cabinetry that you had to pay for. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm speaking to you. Answer.
Yes, ma'am.
And how much was that cabinetry? Look at me. How much was it?
It was during the whole year. It was.
No, in the middle of the year, around June.
I wasn't there around June. I left.
When?
I left around that time.
Then right before you left. How much did they owe on the cabinets?
We didn't owe nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
So then explain what the financial problem was.
The job was frozen, and so I left to go do a job in Arizona. I came back, and...
So there was no work for you?
No.
You left because there
was frozen.
You left in June. Put your hand down. I'm getting there. Shut up! You left in June because there was no work for you with your father. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So your father wasn't working either. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Now you can sit. Now I believe you. Sit! You didn't have to say a thing. But now I'll ask you. Now it makes my job much easier to believe you. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Very good. Were you ever present when he gave them money?
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I have to know.
That's a lie. That's a lie, Your Honor.
No, you're a liar. No, you're a liar.
I have my papers here.
You're a liar. I'm telling you, you're a liar. He just explained to me what happened and why you needed the money in June. Your son just explained it to me.
I didn't need no money,
Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,800.
I didn't present my evidence. You didn't present them.
Please excuse me, step out.
Carolyn Kruger is suing her brother, Kevin Perks, for his share of their mother's funeral. Carolyn says Kevin is the only sibling who refuses to pay.
Miss Kruger, Mr. Perks is your brother.
Yes, he is.
And your claim is that he is responsible for a portion of your mother's funeral expenses.
That's correct.
Mr. Perks says he is not responsible for any portion of your mother's funeral expenses. When did your mother pass away?
April 22nd, 2007.
And it is my understanding that her primary asset was a life insurance policy. Is
That's
that correct?
correct.
Did she have any other assets other than this life insurance policy?
She had a few $100s in a bank account that I used to pay for the nursing home.
Other than the life insurance policy, did she have a home? Did she have a car?
No.
Did she have bonds? Anything else?
No. Life
Insurance policy?
Yes.
And how much was the life insurance policy?
I don't know the total amount. We each got a portion of it. It was $2,082.74 a piece times 8. So a little over $17,000.
And insurance policy, I assume it was from work? Or?
Correct. It came out of her pension.
So it was a pension?
Right.
And it is also my understanding from your complaint that there was no named beneficiary on the policy.
That's correct.
So far, are we correct on that, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
So, only asset is a $17,000 life insurance policy, correct?
Yes.
You have 7 siblings.
That's correct.
Correct. Your mother did not have a will.
No, she did not.
So you decided, I assume, that you had been taking care of her business?
Correct.
You didn't object to that?
I didn't object. I didn't know I was objecting to because she never consulted me on anything.
Don't give me a lot of baloney.
Carolyn Kruger says her brother, Kevin Perks, refuses to pay his share of their mother's funeral. Kevin says he shouldn't have to.
Now, when you went to visit her, did you take charge of her medical care, of overseeing her stay in the nursing home? Did you take care of her other business, or did you just go and visit her?
I just went and visited her.
So you knew somebody had to be taking care of that?
That's correct.
And who did you think was taking care of that business?
Carolyn.
There we go. And you didn't object to that?
No, I did not.
Perfect. Now, you did receive a portion of this life insurance, did you not?
That's correct.
How much did you receive?
$2,076 and some change. I don't know the exact amount.
When your mother passed away in April of 2007, did she pass away in the same town where you live?
Yes.
Did you go to the funeral?
Yes.
Did you put on a suit?
Yes.
You married?
Fiance.
Did your fiance go with you?
Yes, she did.
Do you have children?
Yes, we do.
Did you bring your children to the funeral?
Yes.
So they went to their grandmother's funeral?
Yes.
Were there flowers at the funeral?
Yes.
Was there a grave site that you went to?
Yes.
Did you ever stop to say to yourself, who's paying for this? Mr. Perks,
no.
Did you ever stop to say to yourself, who's paying for this?
Yes.
Did you think the burial fairy was paying for it?
No.
No. So you knew that somebody had to be paying for it?
That's correct.
Okay. And who did you think? Put your hand down. Who'd you think that was?
The life insurance policy.
Right! Look how smart you are. You thought that her life insurance policy was paying for it, right?
That's correct.
Put your hand down. It did. All your brothers and sisters kicked in from the life insurance policy to pay for the funeral, except you. That's what the case is all about. Now, your sister could very easily have said, I am going to take all the proceeds of this life insurance policy, and I'm going to pay the $6,000 for Mom's funeral, and whatever is left over, I'm going to give it to my brothers and sisters. Right?
That's correct.
Well, that's what you thought happened. Instead, your sister decided to do what she considered the right thing, which was name each of you as a beneficiary on the life insurance policy. You all got your money, and everybody divided the $6,000 or whatever it was for the funeral and sent her a check for their portion. Go!
Well, Your Honor, the life insurance policy, normally most life insurance policy, they have a provision, or the funeral home has an agreement where you can have a form filled out to have the life insurance policy paid for it, the funeral expense itself. She never told me about this expense whatsoever. A week after I got the check, I never heard anything from her, never agreed to it, never paid anything. She didn't consult me about it, nothing.
So? And your point would be?
I should have been consulted further on...
I'm consulting you right now. I'm consulting you. Who's supposed to pay for your mother's funeral? Not you. You have no legal obligation to pay for your mother's funeral. None. But you have no right to accept full proceeds of a life insurance policy, which by law is supposed to pay for her funeral expenses before it's dispersed to any beneficiary. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. So it was done a little bit backwards. Instead of taking the money out and then put your hand down. Does it sound like you're losing?
No, I'm sorry.
So instead of taking the $6,000 out and paying for the policy and then distributing it to you, she distributed it to the siblings and then says, okay, brothers and sisters, now send me a check. It's the same thing. Do you understand?
Yes.
You don't have to be consulted about that, sir. This one wants to say something. I'm just dying to hear what she has to say. Dying to hear what she has to say.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, but during the funeral and everything that was at the funeral, as far as the casket, the flowers, anything, Kevin was not allowed or invited to pick any of that stuff out.
Was he invited to pick out who the nurses were going to be at his mother?
Your Honor.
Pay attention to what I'm saying to you. Was he consulted, and did he make himself responsible for his mother's care in the nursing home where she was?
He had no choice.
Of course he had a choice. Did he have a choice to pick you?
Yes.
Then he had a choice to pick where his mother went and who took care of her and participating in her care. He chose not to do that. Just as he chose, madam, listen to me very carefully, he chose to let somebody else take the responsibility for picking out a casket, for picking out flowers. It was not as if he wasn't invited to the funeral. He went with you and his children. He just made himself dumb, which I have a feeling isn't much of a stretch. You owe your sister your share of your mother's funeral. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. How much was it?
$750.
Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Gary Gallahan is suing his daughter, 22-year-old Rachel Gallahan, and her fiancé, Oliver Ross, for a loan to buy a carpet cleaning van.
Mr. Gallahan, this is your daughter, and this is her boyfriend, fiancé, whatever it is. They have children together?
Correct.
But they're not married, but they live together.
Yes, ma'am.
In any event, according to you, you made a loan to them in order for them to start a carpet cleaning business. You made a loan to them to get a van, because take your hands out of your pockets.
Yes, ma'am.
This is what they needed in order to start their business. You made the loan, they didn't pay, you want your money.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's find out certain things. When did you accept this money from your father?
It was the beginning of December 2008.
And tell me the circumstance surrounding your accepting this money from your father.
We had worked for a company, he had worked for a company, and I worked with the gentleman as a secretary, and the one company that he had started with doing carpet cleaning, they were leaving to Arkansas, and we really didn't want to have to leave and be relocated with our family. So I went to my father and asked him to give me money so that
No, that's not what you said to him. Let's go back a second. You went to your father and you said what?
That I need money to get a carpet cleaning van.
What did your father say to you?
That he would do it.
He would do what?
Give me the money.
No. Lend.
I don't believe that you went to him and said, give me money. That's not what you would do. None of my children would ever come to me, and I have enough to do it, but they wouldn't come to me and say, I want you to give me money to buy a car. None of my children would ever do that. They would come to me and say, Mom, I'm in need of some money. Could I borrow some money from you? Hoping that I might say to them, tell me what you need the money for, and if it's for a good reason, I'll give it to you. Does that sound right to you, Bird?
That's absolutely right.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
All right. So now let's you and I understand each other.
Yes.
That certain things are common sense, unless you're a psychotic or a miserable person. Now, you're neither psychotic nor a miserable person, are you?
No.
So you would never go to your father and say, I need to buy a truck. I want you to give me money. Right?
Correct.
So then why don't we start all over again like this never happened? You went to your father and said,
can I borrow money for a carpet cleaning van?
Right. And what did he say to you?
That yes, he would get a loan and he would give me the money.
And what did you say to him?
Thank you.
And how did you make arrangements to pay him?
We never officially...
Don't look over there. Look over here. I'm not talking about officially with the Queen's stamp ring on anything. How was he supposed to repay the loan that he was taking out? He wasn't going into his savings. He was taking out a loan.
Yes.
How were you supposed to put your hand down? I'm not asking you a thing. He's not your father. How are you supposed to pay back this loan?
Yes, clearly in monthly payments, but I never took it into that consent that I was actually going to...
That's hardly English, what you just said to me.
Never thought it completely through, I guess, when I did it.
Well, then that's not my problem that you never thought it completely through. And Loverboy wasn't there. Is that right?
Correct. I went to my father's by myself.
That's right. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, ma'am. We agreed to $300 a month.
When did you agree to $300 a month?
I think I gave him the check on December 4th, sometime shortly after that.
Okay. And did they make any payments towards the loan?
They made $100 or $200, that's about it.
And when did they stop?
Oh, God.
When did she stop? Because right now, he has nothing to do with this loan. He's just standing there and looking reasonable.
Probably shortly up January, February, I'm not sure. Because on February, then, she wrote me 3 different checks to cash it separate times. You want to see also the check that I took out, the $9,000?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. She said that she wrote me 3 different checks to help make up for the payments in February there, you see. And I took it to the bank, and there was no funds in the bank account at all.
Truthfully, I did that so he would leave me alone. So I took out money from one account to another. I have 2 accounts, so I...
He was making threatening.
Yeah.
He was making
He would-
threats to us daily.
I was not
Coming to
making
my
threats.
He did make threats on my telephone that he hoped that the kids were going to end up in an orphanage when he was going to come tow the truck away that was in my name.
I did say to her.
Sure, just a second.
And
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you pay him his money?
I didn't know that.
Why didn't you pay him his money?
I didn't know there was agreement to pay it back.
You're full of baloney. You're full of baloney. You think that he gave it to you because he just thinks you're a nice guy? He doesn't have that kind of money, clearly. He had to take out a loan to get it. Why didn't you pay him back his money?
That's one reason I did give him the 100 because I was
Why
appreciative.
didn't you pay him back his money?
Well, I didn't have $9,000 to give back.
He
to him
wasn't
the same day.
asking you for $9,000. He was asking you for payments.
Sure. Well, he never asked me. I never talked to him. I don't talk to them. They talk to Rachel. But from what I know, I'm normally...
Then, listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you earning any money carpet cleaning with the van that he bought?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were making money, and you were feeding yourself?
So I could work. Yes, ma'am.
You were putting a roof over your head?
Yes, ma'am.
Forget her.
Sure.
Forget the children. This is his daughter. You are nothing. Then you have to pay him back. You have to pay your father back.
If he had ever come to me strictly and said, you know, there's an agreement to pay, but we had never arranged the agreement together.
Then your girlfriend, and I'm not even saying why, your girlfriend lied to you. Now, is there any reason why you and the lovely Miss Goulahan have not married? Yeah, there are a couple of reasons.
Probably my fault.
There are a couple of reasons, okay? When you were without funds,
Sure.
was there any state money coming into your house? My question is a simple one. When you were without jobs, was there any state money coming into your house?
When we were first together, yes, ma'am.
When the children were born?
Yes, ma'am. I stopped that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Very temporarily.
Did you ever pay back the state? Did the state know you were living together?
Yes.
Oh, I doubt that. You owe your father this money, madam. He doesn't owe him anything because the contract was made with you.
Is there a contract?
Yes, there is a contract.
Where? In all due
Right
respect.
here.
Okay.
Right
okay.
here.
Okay.
In my mouth. There's an offer
right.
and an acceptance. And there was consideration paid. The consideration was he took out a loan. The agreement was your girlfriend, the mother of your children, would pay back the loan monthly. That was the contract. It was an oral contract. That's why we're here. If it was a written contract, it would be much easier, and I wouldn't have a television program that makes me highly successful. Do we understand each other, sir?
Yes,
Huh?
yes, ma'am.
Very good. Unfortunately for you, sir, the maximum that this court allows me to award you is the $5,000
Yes, ma'am, I
maximum
understand
limit
that.
of the court. You are owed a lot more than that. I hope that your daughter does the right thing and doesn't become a bum if she doesn't pay you back the rest of the money. That's exactly what she is. Do you understand?
Yes, I would
Do you?
just...
Good.
Most
Thank you
fathers
very
take
much.
you to
That's
college.
all.
Intuitive counselor Rosemary Guerra is suing her colleague, psychic Elizabeth Wines, for the return of money she paid for business leads.
Ms. Guerra, it is your claim that the defendant owes you for some sort of an investment that you made with her towards some future business. Each of you at least makes a living or an avocation of being a psychic.
Right.
And according to you, you gave Miss Wines some money. What did you give her money for?
I gave her $1,500 in reference to some promises she had made in order for us to work events like fashion shows, concerts, special events.
What was she supposed to do for the $1,500?
She was supposed to introduce me to her friend Stacy. That's supposed to put us into events in order for us to work as intuitive readers or psychics. And she had promised me a lot of different events and different parties, 38 events for this year, and that never materialized.
Miss Wines, what was the $1,500 for?
Leads.
Leads?
Leads for events.
And when did she give you the $1,500?
In February.
How long had you known Miss Guerra?
Well over 3 years.
And you told her that this $1,500 was to secure leads for her?
Correct. To take place in June.
How many leads did you give her?
We never got that far.
Just a minute. This is what we have. We have $1,500 given to you to provide her with leads for events. How many leads did you give her?
She would not talk to me to pick out the events.
Okay. So the answer is you gave her no leads.
Absolutely none.
Then you have to give her money back. Your contract is she gave you the money to give her leads. You didn't give her any leads. She gets her money back.
She needed to pick the events. Not all the events are appropriate for psychic.
Show me any correspondence that you have between February and June asking her to pick out the events for the $1,500.
When I contacted her in April, or we mean when the producer contacted her in May, asking her to work the events, and she refused. Is that what you say?
That's hearsay. You have to give her back her money, Miss Wines. You have to stop whining and give her back her money. Do you understand? You didn't provide the service for which the $1,500 was designed. You didn't perform the service. Maybe you'll do it sometime in the future. Maybe you can all sit down and figure that out. But right now, you didn't provide her with what she contracted for. So you have to give her her money back. It's very simple, right? Perfect. Goodbye. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500.
Please excuse me, step out.
Claudia Blanco says ex-boyfriend Rene Trujillo owes for illegally repossessing her car. Rene is countersuing, claiming Claudia's negligence ruined his credit.
Miss Blanco, Mr. Trujillo was your boyfriend.
Yes.
Your complaint alleges that he co-signed for a car for you.
Yes.
The car was titled in his name?
And mine.
But he was on the loan?
Yes.
You couldn't get credit?
Both of us were on the loan.
But you couldn't get credit yourself?
Yes.
You broke up. And the agreement, when he agreed to co-sign for you, from what I understand, was as follows. He would co-sign for you, and you would make regular payments on the car, timely, that you would maintain insurance on the car, that you would pay for his cell phone, maintain his cell phone. Anything else, sir?
Medical insurance.
And keep him on your medical insurance, pay for his medical insurance.
Yes.
That was in exchange for him obligating himself on the car loan. You broke up. According to Mr. Trujillo, you were late in many of your car payments, which damaged his credit.
Yes.
In addition, although he doesn't say it, you do, you canceled his cell phone and canceled his medical insurance.
In January of '07, yes. This year.
Whatever. You canceled his medical insurance. There was no time limit on this contract.
It wasn't really an agreement that I was going to pay his cell phone insurance. It was more of a blackmail, and I have emails to prove that.
What do you mean? Just a second. I'll see you in a second. But it's my understanding, even from you, in your complaint, that we came to an agreement, this is what you swore to, that he would co-sign my car for me, and I would pay for his cell phone plan along with adding him to my medical insurance. That's what you say.
Yes.
So you canceled his cell phone and you canceled his medical insurance. You fell behind in your car payments, and he repossessed the car and turned it back in. Is that what you did with it, or are you driving it?
I currently have the car.
You currently have the car, and you've made up the car payments.
Right, I write it up to date.
You want all the money that you put into the car.
Not necessarily all the money, the down payment that I put into and the payments, some of the payments that I did, and for insurance and the cell phone bill that I did remove them from it, but it wasn't really an agreement. And I have emails that show that it was more of, if I take them off, that the car deal would be done and deal with.
Well, that's true. You know, you don't understand, Miss Blanco. If you made that agreement with him when he co-signed for the car for you, which is what you say in your complaint, and you subsequently break up. So you get the dates. When did you break up?
In September of '06.
And when was the car purchased?
July 22nd of '06.
And when did you take him off the cell phone?
The cell phone, I took him off in this February of '07.
And when did you cut him off of your health insurance?
They didn't cancel that until August 31st of this year, after he took the vehicle and everything.
When did you cancel him from the health insurance? Not when they took him off. When did you cancel him?
When I told him June of this year.
June?
Of '07.
And he repossessed the car?
June 10th.
Which he lied about repoing the car. He did not tell me anything.
He doesn't have to tell you anything. How many times were you late on car payments?
4 times. But I have proof from VW that I called them, everything, we stayed in touch.
I don't care whether you stayed in touch. What does that mean, Ms. Blanco, that you stayed in touch?
Because they cut my hours from work. It was very unexpected. On March 10th, we had a meeting and they told us, hey, we're cutting hours by Monday. I went from working 40 plus hours to 32 hours. There was no way I could come up with the money. I was trying my hardest to get a second job, and Renee knew about this. He knew that I was trying to get a second job. I kept in touch with him. I only paid $110 this time.
Ms.
We're going to do it.
Blanco, you have to be a grown-up, sweetheart.
Listen
to me. You can't visit your problems on him. The fact that you were working with Volkswagen and they don't want your old car back, they want to work with you as long as they're going to get their money, right? That's one thing. That doesn't mean it's not reported to his credit as the co-signer. The fact that you lost hours impacted on him.
He
you
knew
understand that.
I understand
That's his
that.
complaint, because he has a counterclaim. He says you ruined his credit because for 4 times, and I don't care if it was 4 times or 3 times or 2 times, if you don't make your car payment on time, the people who were responsible on that loan are going to be penalized. That was him. He has an absolute right to repossess the car for that alone. In addition to the fact that you had a contract with him, a verbal contract, he would obligate himself on the car if you would maintain him on his cell phone and your insurance. Well, after a while, you're not his girlfriend anymore. You say, I'm going to cancel that cell phone. I don't want to pay for a cell phone, but he's calling other people, and I don't want to pay for his health insurance anymore. I'm canceling it.
It wasn't out of a malicious act to
remove
him.
It doesn't have to be malicious. That was your contract with him.
But it wasn't a contract.
Yes, it was. That's what you said. You said it was an agreement. We came to an agreement that he would co-sign my car for me and I would pay for his cell phone along with adding him to my health insurance. You want me to see what you signed?
I know. I circled that agreement part. It wasn't...
That's what you signed.
I know.
That's what you swore to.
It wasn't an
That's what you said happened. That's what he says happened. You may not want to revisit that now.
Your Honor, there's an email here that shows the only reason I kept that going was because
she doesn't understand that the email is going to support exactly what I said. Yeah, he says to you, you keep me on your insurance and your cell phone plan, and we'll keep the same car deal. That's what he says.
But it wasn't the car deal. The reason why it says car deal is because when we first signed up for the car, we signed up on July 22nd. A couple days after that, the guy that we did the car loan with called us in and said, hey, we have a better interest rate for you. If you come in, we could redo the contract. So I got sick a couple days after that, so we couldn't go right away. I had surgery, everything was fine. We went back and redid the contract, but before we redid the contract, we got into an argument, and I said, you know what, we have to take this out of my name, or out of your name, put it into my own name, now that, this is not how it's supposed to be. And in that email it says,
Ms. Blanco, was the car in both your names?
Yes.
Was the loan in both your names?
Yes.
Do you have proof, sir, that your credit score went from one thing to another?
I do.
Can I see it, please?
Sure. This is the before and the after with the credit scores highlighted.
I have the proof of, or not proof, but when we first co-signed the car, they did a credit check on us, and I have the credit score that they gave us on his and
Not
mine.
us, him.
And mine. Both of ours.
Just his.
Oh, you want
What was his?
His was 776.
Now it's 630. Now it's 630, based upon your 4 late payments. Now, is this a new car?
Yes.
You know, when you walk out of the showroom, the car is diminished by 20%?
Yes.
So he had to take over a car that was now worth 20% less because you ruined his credit, in addition to cutting off his cell phone and insurance. Forget that. So you don't get anything for that, Ms. Blanco? Nothing.
There wasn't an agreement. I know that says it's agreement, but when we were signing it upstairs, I circled it and said it wasn't really an agreement.
Whether it was or it was not, you cannot ruin the co-signatory's credit rating because you had a problem with your job. That's not his problem.
He knew that, and we were trying. We both wanted to make payments on it, but they didn't take credit card. And I tried my hardest to get a second job.
Crying. Did you buy a new car?
No, I have not.
Why not?
I'm saving up for it.
Good. That's what you should have done.
Payments.
That's what you should have done.
And that's what we wanted to do, and I wanted to do, and I have proof that I tried my hardest to get my car to pass MOG so that I didn't have to get a new car. Chucky was also there as when I was searching for a new car. I did not want payments whatsoever, and he convinced me to get a new car and get payments.
You are a very strong young lady, and you don't seem to me like somebody who's shy. You got into difficulty. He had a right to take back the car.
Not the way he did, though.
Listen.
I was at work, Your Honor.
I'm not saying he was Prince Charming. He had a right to take back the car.
But I was at work, Your Honor, when he came, and I had lunch with my boss, and he just took the car. He did not warn me. After lying about having the spare key.
I'm not the moral police, Ms. Blanco. I'm here to decide a legal issue. The legal issue is, did he have the right to take the car? Absolutely. Did he have the right to sell the car? Absolutely. Does he have the right to keep the car and make the payments? Absolutely. That is his prerogative because you ruined his credit. You have no right to do that. You have to be a big grown-up girl and not say, because I lost my job, I had surgery, I had other things that happened to me, and I this and I have that. It's not my fault. He took the car the way I was having lunch with my boss. He didn't give me notice. You breached the contract to make the payments in a timely manner. May not have been of your own volition. It may have been because, I don't know, the sky was falling and henny penny and whatever other reason it was, but that can't impact on him. He's not your boyfriend anymore. He's not your boyfriend. He's not your father. He's not your brother. He has no moral obligation to you whatsoever. Now, you're driving the car, sir?
No, it's currently garaged at my mother's house.
Why?
Because I have nowhere to put it at. I go to San Francisco State, and I have no
Well,
garage
who's going to drive the car?
My mom's driving it right now.
Oh, your mom's driving it. Good. So you have a nice car, right?
Right.
Good. So what are you complaining about?
By the time I sell the car to my supervisor here, I won't have lost $5,000.
Well, you should have sold it to her sooner.
She's going to apply for a loan.
You should have sold it to her sooner. That's not her problem. That's your problem.
Okay.
You took back the car. Car is in good running order.
Yes.
And now you're paying for it, and you're going to sell it to somebody else.
To her.
And right now your mother's driving it.
Right.
Very nice. Your counterclaim's dismissed.
Okay.
So is your claim. You're not entitled to any money back. That's all. Thank you. Thank you.
Amy Evans is suing her ex-boyfriend, Timothy Beeler, for an unpaid loan to pay his rent and for the accrued interest on the loan. Timothy is countersuing for harassment and defamation of character.
Miss Evans, Mr. Beeler was a friend of yours, and you took out a loan for him, very high-interest loan, because he was in need of money. You want him to pay you back. The defendant says that you gave him money. He told you not to take out such a high-interest loan. You did it anyway. And he's got a counterclaim for some nonsense because you're angry at him for not paying back the loan, so he says you've been harassing him for the money and telling people that he's a deadbeat, right?
That's correct.
Well, you probably are. Truth is a perfect defense. Why did you take money from her?
I didn't take money from her, Your Honor. It was a...
Just a second. You did take money from her.
I did. She offered...
No, listen to me. You did take money from her. It is my judgment as to whether that is a loan or a gift. My question to you is, why did you take money from her?
We had been seeing each other, whatever was going on with her, in her relationship with her husband or whatever. We started talking again, and she had stayed over a couple nights. We were pretty close. We were getting along pretty good. I was telling her my situation about my roommate. He skipped out on me, left me kind of hanging. I was a little short on my rent and whatnot. She said she'd try and help me out. She came up with some money. Yeah, she handed it to me, and I took it. It was a gift. I didn't know that I was forced to pay back.
Just a second.
And everything was cool, and we started talking about our relationship and stuff and what we were going to do. Well,
tell me about that, sir.
What?
I'm confused because I read the papers, yours and hers. Tell me, when she stayed over at your house, did you stay in the same room?
Yes.
Did you stay in the same bed?
Yes.
I'm not paying Amy for anything. She gave me the money with the hopes of rekindling our romance, which has been over for years, according to you. Now, if it had been over for years, sir, Why did you share a bed with her?
Why
Would you
did I-
stand up
wh-
straight, please?
Why did I share a bed with her?
Yeah, you said your romance has been over for years.
We were hanging out. We were seeing each other.
Hanging out is not sharing a bed.
Well, kissing and other things that go in that matter are. So, yeah, we shared a bed.
But you, listen.
Yeah,
but
we did.
Then you, listen to me.
Well.
Listen to me. Then you lied to me here when you wrote in this answer, she gave me money in the hopes of rekindling our romance, which had been over. So that's a lie.
Because.
Just a minute. That's a lie then, based upon what you just told me.
No.
That is absolutely.
Because when I told her I didn't want a relationship no more, she took off, didn't call me or nothing. She started telling a bunch of people that I was a deadbeat and all that.
You are a deadbeat.
Well, whatever. That's your opinion.
How
That's your
old are
opinion.
you? How old are you?
34.
34. If you're 34 and you can't afford to pay your rent and you borrow money or you take money.
Took it.
Take money.
Yeah.
I'll decide in a second whether you owe it to her. Take money
Right.
from a woman who you say the relationship is over, and yet you share your bed with her, and according to you, talk about a relationship with her, and then take money from her. That makes you a deadbeat. And it makes you an amoral deadbeat. Because what you're doing is saying, listen, I need some money. She's going to give me some money. So I'll string her along. You know, I'll hug her and I'll kiss her and I'll sleep with her.
No.
And I'll sleep with her. We'll talk about our relationship.
I don't think so.
I'm
I don't
speaking.
think so. It
Hey,
takes two.
I'm speaking.
It takes two.
Did she take money from you?
No.
Your Honor, if I may.
Just
In November,
just a second. Do I look like I need any help from you?
No,
Sit down.
ma'am, you don't.
Sit down. You kissed her. She kissed you.
Right.
You hugged her.
Yeah.
She hugged you.
Okay. What's the point?
You took money from her.
Yeah.
She took money from you.
No.
Right. How much money does he owe you, this idiot? How much?
With interest, he owes me $3,900.
Just a second. You don't get any points from me for being an idiot. Okay?
Okay.
And if you take out an interest-bearing loan, and the interest on the loan is 87%, you get zero sympathy from me. Now, how much money did you give him?
$2,500, Your Honor.
That's what he's going to give you back. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Step out.
But, Your Honor, I had to pay $1,100 interest.
You shouldn't have taken out a loan for him, madam. You gave him $2,500. This idiot had no concept that he was going to have to pay you back $3,900.
He knew it was a loan, Your Honor.
He knew it was a loan.
And he knew about the
and he's
interest.
going to pay
He
you
was supposed
back.
to go back to work and pay me back.
Listen to me. He was supposed to go back to work. He didn't go back.
He was working.
I was working.
He was working with me. She was calling and texting.
Oh, all he did was
Listen to me.
he works
Do I-
everybody he
do
knows.
I
That's
ask you
all
a
he does.
question?
No.
Very good. He owes a $2,500.
Penny Loud says neighbors Keith and Tammy Cavanis owe for the return of 2 dirt bikes. The defendants are countersuing for harassment and defamation of character.
Miss Loud, you and the defendant were neighbors. You purchased 2 dirt bikes at some point, and then according to your complaint, you and your husband separated. You couldn't maintain the payments on the bikes, so you sold them to your neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
And they acknowledged that you did in fact sell them to them, and the price for the 2 bikes was, I believe, $1,800. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You made only $300 worth of payments, is that right?
Yes,
3
ma'am.
payments of $100 each.
Yes, ma'am.
And your last payment was in February.
Yes, ma'am.
She wants her money. Do you have a defense?
We attempted to make the payment, and she refused it.
Show me.
Here's the return. That's the receipt for the money, or the certified letter, and that's where they refused it and sent it back. We called her.
March 23rd. When was your payment due?
On the 15th.
Of
we
what?
called her on March 15th. So she sent us a text on March 14th, and we had gone out of town and we had forgotten about it. So we called her and told her we were out of town and asked if it would be okay if we paid it on the 20th when we returned. And if not, my nephew had access to our funds, and he could bring it down to her right then because it's only a few houses down. And she said, no, it's okay, wait when you return on the 20th. And then she went on, started talking about other issues.
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Okay, and when they were out of town, they did not call me. I called them on Sunday. And
Sunday, what day?
Sunday was March 15th, I believe. And they told me at that point that they were out of town and that their nephew could pay me the money. I had talked to their nephew during the week. He did not mention anything about the money, and neither did I, because in February...
Why didn't you pick this up? Did you get this certified
I wasn't
mail?
at home. I had somebody staying with me due to the threats that he had said to me
Just a second.
when I went to collect the money
Hold on,
March 20th.
Hold on. I don't understand this. This is addressed to you. This is addressed to you. This envelope
brought the wrong.
and this name is addressed to you.
I'm sorry, it's the receipt that...
Don't show me the receipt. That you filled out.
I brought the wrong envelope.
That you filled out, madam. This is addressed to you.
I know, I'm sorry, Your Honor, I brought the wrong envelope.
Well, that's not my problem.
I know it. I messed up. But
it's very messed up. It's very messed
the
up.
thing is, she came to our house and she refused on the 20th when we returned, and she refused.
Oh, you have no defense for not paying up for the bikes. What's your defense?
The defense that she came to our house on the 20th. When we returned, we told her we were going to pay on the 20th. She was not home. She showed up at our home intoxicated, demanded the dirt bikes back. And we said, no, Kenny, you said that it would be okay when we returned on the 20th that we would pay you. He was there. He was a witness and saw that she refused. I want to know today, as you stand here, what your defense is. Right now, you have the 2 dirt bikes. We had the cash to give to her.
Right now, you have the 2 dirt bikes.
The deal was that I lost a job, so we did not have to pay on the 15th. The deal was that we could pay.
The contract does say the 15th, but she said she'd work with us.
And work with us.
I want to know, you're standing here today, what is your defense for not paying her for the merchandise that you have?
That she would not take the payment when we tried to
Well,
take
what
it
do you
to her.
think she's doing here? To check out my makeup?
She wanted the bikes. She wanted the bikes back.
She wanted the
Her
bikes back.
ex-husband returned, and he wanted the bikes back. She told us in February he wanted the bikes back.
I mean, thick. Are you people just thick?
We offered her the payment on the 15th.
What defense do you have today for keeping the bikes and not paying for them? The fact that you're annoyed?
We attempted. We had the money. We want to pay him. We want to pay her. We wanted to pay it.
Oh, so you want to finish?
Yes, we wanted to make every payment on time. We wanted to make the payments early.
Fine. Well, you didn't make your payment on time. All right. So right now they owe you $1,500 on the dirt bikes.
On the dirt bikes?
What?
On the dirt bikes, I want the return of the dirt bikes. I don't want the money. I want the dirt bikes because
That's not the deal. You're getting your $1,500 back. I don't care what you want. You made the deal. Now, you have some other repossession fees. I want you to show me where you paid a bill for repossessing the dirt bikes.
I have not paid anything yet.
Good. Then you don't get
I have
that.
an invoice.
Then you don't get it.
Even with the invoice saying, because I still have to pay it.
No, I don't want it. But I'm curious, when did you hire somebody to repossess the bikes?
I think it was around April 9th.
You have that on the invoice?
I don't know. I think the invoice is just dated the day that they sent it to me. June 1st is the date of it.
No, not interested. Take it, throw it in the garbage. They didn't get the property.
But I still have to pay the money.
That's your problem, if you're going to pay the money, and I don't think you are. So far, they owe you $1,500. Now, you want to get to the last part of your lawsuit, which is defamation of character.
Yes, ma'am. I was the assistant leader in a Girl Scout troop. She was the leader, and both of our daughters were in it. And on Friday, March 20th, is when I went over there to get the dirt bikes. And then Saturday is when she sent an email to all of the parents, to the girls in the Girl Scout troop, saying that I was no longer going to be the assistant leader.
Let me see.
I had not resigned.
Just want to see what she says in it.
I have mine also if you want to compare the two.
This is not defamation. She says, as some of you know, I am needing an assistant to help me with the troop. Kenny no longer will be the assistant, so I need help ASAP. She doesn't say anything else about you.
I was forced out of the group by her when I had sent.
I don't care.
I had talked to the.
That's not defamation. Show me something that indicates that she defamed you in some way, madam.
Okay, because of that email, I found out about that email, and I had called corporate Girl Scouts, and then they came in, and at that point she had said, well...
Don't tell me what she said.
She said it to...
they owe you $1,500. Now I'm going to entertain, in 30 seconds or less, your counterclaim.
She kept calling counsel over and over again. They were just
Don't
irritated.
tell me what they were just...
And she told them that I...
You can't tell me what she told them. That's hearsay.
I have the letter from the counsel.
I don't
she
care
told
if
them
you
that
have
I
a
stole
letter.
money.
Just a second. I don't care if you have a letter from counsel. I don't read letters from counsel. Letters from counsel are hearsay. You have anything that she wrote?
Oh, I have the letter that she sent to all the girls. Well, she sent it to counsel to send it to the girls, and saying that I told them stuff, which I didn't. And then the letter from counsel says that she had me investigated for stealing money.
I don't care. That's hearsay. Do you understand?
That she had me investigated for stealing money?
That's hearsay. This is not defamation. She's saying that I understand that Tammy Cavan has communicated with you by email or in person about a week and a half ago that I had quit the troop. That's not what she said at all in her email to the troop that you gave me. She just said, I will be needing a new assistant, and Kerry will no longer be. She didn't say you quit. Show me where it says you quit.
I have the resignation letter.
I don't have it.
I didn't ask you anything.
Okay. Do you still have that email?
Have that?
You still have it. Kenny will no longer be the assistant
That's what she
leader.
says. She will no longer be. She doesn't say you quit. And it's all a matter of semantics anyway. It's nonsense, ladies. You owe her $1,500 for the dirt bikes that you have. Your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step back.
Crystal Kim says former roommates Marcus Thompson and Darian Harris won't return her furniture. Crystal also claims that Darian attempted to sexually assault her.
Miss Kim, how long have you known the defendants?
About a year.
And there came a time when you moved into an apartment with them. They already had the apartment.
Correct.
And when was that?
June 1st, 2007.
Did you have your own bedroom?
Yes, I did.
And you were supposed to pay rent?
That was not the agreement.
You going to live there free?
No.
Well, either you live there free or you pay rent.
What the agreement was if I were to move in, I would pay for utilities, I would pay for gas, I would pay for the cable, I would pay for the internet, the phone.
So you were going to pay all the utilities?
We shared the gas, and then I paid the majority of everything else, correct?
Is that your agreement?
No, that was not the
What was the agreement?
The agreement that we had when Crystal moved in with us, it was correct for internet, phone, cable, and some grocery.
Okay. When did you move out, by the way?
January 15th, 2008.
And I assume you have proof that you paid all those expenses while you were living there?
Yes.
Great. So that was the agreement. She wasn't going to pay rent. Phone, cable, internet, and buy groceries.
Yes.
Your claim is that when you moved in, you bought some furniture, and they were supposed to pay you back for their 2/3 of the furniture. When you moved out on January 15th, 2008, you left the furniture there, and they refused to pay you for it, and they had never paid you for it. The defendants say that you did not pay rent. You used the word rent while you were there. You lived there for 9 months, and they're keeping the furniture. That's your defense.
Yes.
You also claim that one of these two young men assaulted you.
Yes.
And you want to be compensated for that harassment. So I'd like to see your checks for the phone bill, the cable, and the internet from June until January.
All the transactions were done in cash.
Then just give me the receipts.
I have the receipt of the furniture that was purchased on my
I'm not
credit card.
interested in the furniture. Listen to what their defense is. Their defense is that you lived there free for 9 months, and they let you live there free without paying these expenses that you were supposed to pay because you had purchased furniture. Am I reading your defense correctly?
Yes.
I mean, is that true? Pay the phone bill.
She did.
And she paid for groceries?
That was breached.
When?
That was breached the second month that she was there. Crystal purchased groceries 2, maybe 3 times at the most. And then it became a situation where she just purchased food for herself. And I also want to add that she was only...
Just a second. Okay. Did you have that discussion with them?
No. I moved in. I paid for groceries for everybody. Everybody was fed. It got to a point where, after a while, I was never even there. I was working 2 jobs. I went to school full-time. I was never home to eat. I was never home to go grocery shopping. The agreement, when I moved in, was nothing about groceries at all.
Well, you already told me you bought food for everybody.
I did, but I just help out.
But that was your agreement. That was your rent, Miss Kim. That was your rent, whether you were eating there or not. Then you should have gone back and said to them, listen, we have to redo this agreement because I'm not here and I'm not eating. So I don't want to buy groceries. I have a bedroom. I'll pay something towards the rent on the house or the apartment, but I'm not going to buy groceries because I'm not eating here.
I also gave them money for rent.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, fine. You didn't tell me that. You told me you didn't give them money for rent.
The agreement was I didn't have to pay rent, but I still did.
How much did you pay them?
Whatever they asked me. One time they wanted $200. Next month they wanted $100. Our rent was only $500, so it was split between 4 people.
Who was the 4th?
My girlfriend. Well, she was a girlfriend. Her name is Tiffany.
Did she give you money?
No. I personally never witnessed or accepted rent money from Crystal. And just a quick point, Crystal came home every night. It was never a night when she ever didn't come home.
Did you ever accept any cash from her?
In situations where we needed help with the utilities, never for rent. Rent was always handled by Darian and I.
Whatever it was, you accepted cash from her?
Small deposits, Your Honor.
Whatever. All right, you have to give the furniture back. Do you understand? Furniture goes back to her. You cannot have a loose kind of arrangement like this and expect somebody else to figure out. You're supposed to have a contract. It doesn't always have to be in writing. It should be in writing.
Yes.
But you have to have a contract. You pay $40 a week, plus your own phone. You pay $200 a month, plus a quarter of the utilities. You can't have this nebulous arrangement and then expect me to figure it out. Do you understand?
Yes.
Put your hand down. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
Perfect. So she's getting her furniture back, 5 days.
They've damaged the furniture.
Listen, you shouldn't have left it there any longer than you had to. 5 days from today, you get your furniture back. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Put your hand down.
Okay.
5 days from today, she gets her furniture back. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now, you want to give me this assault in 30 seconds or less? Now, Miss Kim, you want to give me this assault in 30 seconds or less?
Sure. One night, Friday night, October, we went out to a bar. Probably 9 o'clock, we all got home from work. We all went, we had a couple of drinks. We came home and we watched a movie. When I fell asleep, we all fell asleep. Marcus and Tiffany decided to go into the bedroom and go to bed, where Darian waited outside for me.
Who's Darian?
That's me.
Go ahead.
I woke up, it was 7 a.m. He was on top of me, one hand down unbuttoning my pants, another trying to touch the upper part of my breast.
And?
I eventually woke up. I pushed him off.
So you pushed him off, and?
I ran into my bedroom.
And that was in October?
That was October. I locked myself in my room.
Yeah, and?
Called my girlfriend, didn't know what to do.
And?
I stood there overnight, waited till everyone woke up. I grabbed Marcus, talked to Marcus, and asked him what I should do. And he told me, he's like, I'll be behind you 100%, but
you lived there October, November, and December. Are you telling me that you didn't speak to, what's your name?
Darian.
Darian?
No, we spoke.
October, November, and December?
We spoke.
Did you tell him that his advances were uncalled for and unwarranted?
Yes, and he apologized.
And you stayed there? And did you have any trouble with him after that?
I did.
Tell me.
He thought that he could do whatever. He made me feel uncomfortable.
Who cares what he made you feel uncomfortable? Getting your furniture back. Stop with the nonsense. He made unwanted advances. He apologized. Everybody had a little too much to drink. You were on the couch. Were you on the couch?
Yes, I was on the couch.
Shouldn't have done it. Stopped. Didn't assault you in any way. Didn't
touching my breast.
Didn't.
And getting down my pants is...
Did you call the police?
He told me not to.
Did you call the police?
No, I didn't.
Did you stay there for 3 months?
Yes.
Goodbye, Miss Kim. You get your furniture back.
26-year-old Ebony Dean is suing the mother of her late husband's son, Taishra White, for the cost of her stepson's orthodontist bills.
Miss Dean, you were married to the defendant's former boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
And your husband passed away recently. They had a child together.
Yes, ma'am.
The child was primarily living with you and your husband at the time of his death. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And at the time he was about 13?
Yes, ma'am.
How old is he now?
13.
13. This is your lawsuit. While he was living with you and your husband, you got braces for him.
Yes, ma'am.
Because he needed them.
Yes, ma'am.
And you took out a loan.
Yes, ma'am.
In order to do that. Your husband is no longer here. You want his mother to take over the responsibility of the rest of the loan.
Yes, ma'am.
And to that, his mother says she is not responsible for the loan because she never signed the loan papers.
Correct.
Okay. Can I see any paperwork that you have from the dentist?
Yes. This is the recommendation to get the minor braces due to he had a...
Just a second. Let me read. I can read it. So this was the referral that was done in May 21st, 2007.
Yes, ma'am.
And at that time, was he in fact living with you, or was
yes,
he was living with you and your husband?
Yes.
Okay. How much was the total bill?
The total bill was $3,000 some odd dollars, Your Honor.
Yes.
If I could say something, please?
Yes.
About the recommendation and the dentist bills and all the records, I have never seen any of that.
Doesn't make any difference.
And about the...
You paid. I read your answer. You paid, according to you, what you thought you could pay, which was $800.
To keep the peace, Your Honor.
I don't care whether it was to keep the peace or not. It has really nothing to do with the loan, Miss White. It has nothing... Listen, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with the loan. It has to do with your responsibility as a parent to give your child whatever necessaries your child needs.
Your Honor, I understand that completely.
No, you don't. I don't think you do at all.
Your Honor.
Just listen to me. Who are you?
I'm her husband.
It has nothing to do with you. Judge, listen to me. Has nothing to do with you. This is not your child.
Yes, it is.
Has nothing. No. It has nothing
He is
to
my
do.
child.
No.
He stays with me in my house.
I
That's
don't
my
care whether
child.
he
I've been
stays
raising
with
him
you.
since he was-
Listen to me. It has nothing to do with you because you have, at this point, no financial responsibility with regard to the child's dental care.
I do too. He's in my house. I'm married
Okay,
to
listen,
her.
this is not a discussion that you and I are having. We don't have discussions. I'm telling you what the law is. You have no financial responsibility for the child's braces. You don't. His mother and his father have a responsibility to ensure that the child gets whatever necessaries the child needs. Now, as far as the plaintiff is concerned, I'm telling you what the law is. This has nothing to do with her obligation under the loan. She is suing you because the child who required braces, because I must assume, and if you don't think that's true, you could sue the dentist for malpractice. The child that I must assume needed braces as a necessary, just like food, clothing, shelter, medical care, that's a necessary. Put him out, please.
I just had a question. Mama,
I don't answer your questions.
Medi-Cal pays for them. He is on medical.
You're not paying attention.
Sir. Yes.
You want to talk instead of listen. Just as your husband has no financial obligation to this child, absent a showing that the state is paying any money for the child, neither does the plaintiff. When she was his stepmother, she took on that responsibility because I assumed that the child's father couldn't get a loan in his name. She assumed that responsibility while she was married to your former boyfriend. She was the child's stepmother. She is no longer the child's stepmother. A situation that came very close to home because I understand that you don't think that she should have any visits with him.
No, that's not true.
In any event, you are responsible, Miss White, for necessaries for your child.
Yana, can I say something? I haven't
Yes,
been
now
able to
you can say
anything.
something.
Okay, Malik had Medi-Cal at the time. Now, when you have Medi-Cal, there's certain points that you have to, come up to with your mouth for them to say that they can have them. Well, Medi-Cal denied him because he didn't have enough points. So
Right.
Medi-Cal said that, he didn't need them.
Let me ask you this question, ma'am. You think you're a good mother?
Yes, I'm a very good mother.
Well, then I want you to think about this. Because he didn't have bad enough teeth to qualify for free braces, do you think that that means that the child didn't benefit from having braces? That requires a yes or a no.
No, but, could you let me talk a little
No,
bit?
I want you to. You think that these people put braces on your child
No,
because he didn't need them?
That's not what I'm saying, Your Honor.
Then I want you to tell me what you're saying. Do you think that his father and his stepmother obligated themselves financially because they paid for a substantial part of this loan
I wasn't
back?
involved
I'm
in-
speaking. Because they wanted to torture him?
No, Your Honor.
Do you think that they put on the braces because a private doctor, said that your son could benefit from having braces?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Your Honor, please let me say something, please. I'm begging you.
Go ahead.
The thing is that I wasn't involved in the process at all. When they told me about the loan and everything, they had already did everything.
Fine.
They didn't.
It has nothing
I
to
could
do
have
with
went
the
and got a
loan.
second
Excuse me, Your Honor.
opinion.
Can I Put your hand down. No.
I could have went and got a second opinion. We could have went somewhere else to try to get something that we both can afford. I have 3 other children. I wasn't involved in anything. It was all about a control issue. Oh, we're doing this. Here, you pay this. Involve me in something.
Listen
and then
to
she
me
wants
carefully.
me to pay all of it.
Listen to me carefully. She wouldn't have come here if the child's father was still alive.
No, she wouldn't.
No,
have.
just listen to me. She wouldn't have come here if your child's father was still alive. If she came here, I would have said, listen, he's a parent, just like she is. You obligated yourself to pay for this. Child's father, he pays for it. But she has no responsibility to pay for the necessaries for your child.
She's
the
been
theory,
paying half all this time.
It has nothing to do with the loan. You're not understanding me. Your head is fixed in the loan. It has nothing to do with the loan.
Okay.
I'm trying to get it through to you. You don't understand. These braces are necessaries, just like you give your child breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Okay.
And as the parent that's left, you are responsible in the law for all the necessaries of this child. All of them. She's not responsible anymore for anything with regard to this child. You are responsible for everything, having nothing to do with the loan. The only reason she had the loan is because of her husband. You are responsible for your child's medical and dental care, and there's an outstanding balance now of $1,127. That's your responsibility. And if your husband, all of it, all of it.
So she didn't assume responsibility in paying half of it?
It's not her. No, it's not her child. It's your child. It's your child.
So she can go out and get a car, and he totaled it, and here, you pay it because this is your child, without consulting me at all.
No, a car is not a necessary. Put your hand down. A car is not a necessary. If your child, however, needed an emergency appendectomy, and they took the child to the hospital, and there was a $20,000 medical bill, and the child's father died, you would be responsible for the entire $20,000 medical bill because you are his mother, and you are the only surviving parent. And whether they consulted you and you could have gotten the appendectomy cheaper or not, it doesn't make any difference. It's your responsibility. You are his mother, not hers. So it would have been his father's if he was alive, but he's gone. Wow. That's the law. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,127. Thank you, Your Honor.
20-year-old Ashley Branham is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old Jeremy Benjamin, for a cell phone bill she paid on his behalf. Jeremy says Ashley prematurely paid a bill that he was disputing.
Miss Branham, this tall drink of water over here used to be your boyfriend.
Yes.
And you were foolish enough to get him a cell phone.
Yes.
A cell phone with a bill in your name.
Yes.
And you did that, according to you, and really not disputed by Mr. Benjamin, so that you could converse with each other.
Yes.
And with the promise that he was going to take care of the bill.
Yes.
Well, he didn't exactly do that. And according to you, within the first couple of months that he had the phone, and it was one of those fancy phones. What do they call it, Mr. Benjamin?
BlackBerry.
BlackBerry.
Yes, ma'am.
He kept trading in the BlackBerry. And by the time he left for Europe to play basketball, which he does professionally or semi-professionally?
Professionally.
Professionally. He had racked up a bill of close to $1,700. And then you cut off the phone.
Yes.
So you had charges for cutting off the phone because there's an early termination fee?
Yes.
See, I don't do those things really well, but I heard all of this before. Because believe it or not, there are other foolish young ladies who've been standing right where you've been standing, who did the same dumb thing that you did. They are supposed to buy you presents. You get it? Right?
Correct.
They're supposed to bring flowers and candy and jewelry and all that kind of stuff. They're supposed to woo you. That's the way the Creator made it. Not the other way around. Because usually they're not that great a bargain.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ashley Branham says ex-boyfriend Jeremy Benjamin owes for a $1 cell phone bill.
Now, are you the bargain exception? Because you're going to tell me, because I want to hear it from your own mouth, Mr. Benjamin, because you look like a decent enough young man. She paid the bill because her mother said to her,
You don't want your credit to be bad.
That it was going to ruin her credit. And I assume that the reason she got the phone in the first place is because you didn't have credit.
Something like that.
Well, I assume if you could have gotten it for yourself, you would have gotten it for yourself, right?
Oh, yeah, I was told never to, not take gifts, If she offers, I'm not going to say no.
You were told what? I'd like you to keep your voice up. I want to hear that.
Oh, you can't hear me. I'm sorry. I said my mother told me never to, not accept gifts, if
Your mother always told you to accept a gift.
Of course.
I'm getting to like you less and less, Mr. Benjamin.
Sorry about that.
I knew that it was just a slip. So, why isn't this bill your responsibility?
Because actually, the phones were actually replacement phones. I wasn't upgrading the phones. The phone that I received was a defective phone. So the actual reason why I had to keep sending the phones back because they kept sending me refurbished phones.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did. Actually, I did.
Yes, and?
Call her and explain it to her. I said, I called her and I said, Ashley, these phones, I'm having a problem with these phones. I'm going to send them back. So what they do is they send you a phone and they send you a box. You put the broken phone in the box, you put the label on top, and you send it away. So I did that about 3 times. And they tell you before, if we don't receive the phones, we're going to charge you $400 per phone that is missing.
I assume you have all the receipts.
Well, actually, they just have a label that you just pull off the sticky thing and you put it in a box, and you can put it in any UPS. But T-Mobile itself had the actual the
Got it. I got
numbers.
it, Mr. Benjamin.
Okay, so going along with the time and everything that we were together or whatever, I was going through graduation, contracts with basketball, you know, trying to take care of everything I had to take care of. And I explained to Ms. Brenham that I was putting in a claim for the money that I owed, and it was going to take almost a month for the claim to actually go through T-Mobile. They're not just going to give me the money back without finding the phones. Okay, cool. So I get a call about 2 weeks from that time saying, hey, my mother closed the account, she paid the bill, you owe $1,700.
Well, a lot of that was for phone calls, too.
Well, the voice plan, I think, was about between $300 and $400 out of that $1,700.
Well, did you pay that part of it?
I paid $200 prior before that.
Why didn't you pay all of it?
I have no clue why I didn't pay it all.
You didn't pay any of it. According to you, your mother gave her $200 because she was complaining
Well,
to your
no,
mother.
not actually. I sent the money to my mother because I was out of the country at the time. I couldn't send a check from out of the country.
Okay, but you only sent her a little part of it.
Of course, yes.
What do you mean, of course?
Well, we made an agreement that, you know, I would pay $200 a month just because, you know, I don't know.
Who did you make the agreement with?
Her mother.
Her mother.
Yes.
But it's her credit.
I don't know. I
Look,
guess she just took
Mr.
over.
Benjamin, I read your answer, and what your answer put succinctly is, you went to Germany for how long?
I was in Germany for 4 months.
Working.
Yeah, this is a job.
Did you have a cell phone, by the way, while you were there?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Ah, that's the question that you didn't answer here in your answer, Mr. Benjamin.
Right.
Don't look down there.
Right.
Okay. She had turned off the cell phone. Your cell phone connection to her was over
Right.
when you went to Germany.
Right.
How'd you get a cell phone in Germany that had a chip that allows you to call the United States? That's a fancy phone. How did you get that? No, no, no. Don't think about it. Just give me the truth.
Yes, my mother. My mother got it for me out of the kindness of her heart.
Well, that's your mother's problem, because according to you, your mom says you always take a gift, never turn down a gift, right? So, Mr. Benjamin, this is what you have to do, sir. You've got a beef with T-Mobile, right?
Yes, I do.
You don't have beef with her.
I know. Well,
But she paid the bill. You have to get on the phone with T-Mobile, start writing letters to T-Mobile, all of that stuff, and say, listen, you were paid.
Right.
Well, you were supposed to get back to me with regard to the phones that I said I sent back to you.
But the problem is that the phone was in her name, so I can't call and say.
Sure you can. She's going to call and she's going to give you the authority to do that. You can do whatever you want because you owe her $1,700.
Right, but they're not going to pay me the $1,700 for
They're going to give it to her.
How can they do that when she paid?
No, no, listen to me. Listen to me. If you are successful, then she will give you a letter saying you can take all the money because you're going to give it to her.
Right.
Because you used the phone, you got the new Blackberries whenever they sent you back one of the refurbished ones, which, by the way, I really don't understand. If you buy a new phone, if it turns out to be a dud, why don't you get a new phone rather than a refurbished one? I send that out over the airwaves to T-Mobile and everybody else.
Right.
It's your problem, not her problem. You deal with it. You should have dealt with it before you went to Germany. You should have dealt with it from Germany.
Well, I actually tried, and the thing that I asked her not to do was to close the account.
Well, she had to do that. They were going to ruin her credit, sir. They can't wait for you.
It was still active. I was still using the phone.
They can't wait for you to pay this bill. The bill was outstanding, more than the $200 you sent to your mother.
Right.
Right. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,700. Go try to get your money back from T-Mobile. Thank you very much.
Salminio Moten is suing his ex-fiancée, Andrea Umersky, for the return of a laptop. Andrea claims Salminio gave her the computer before he was deployed to Iraq.
Mr. Moten, it is your claim that the defendant, who is your former girlfriend, has a computer that belongs to you. You want it back.
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendant says that you gave her the computer a long time ago. It was a gift. It was a second computer that you had. You had bought yourself a new one. She has a counterclaim for a whole bunch of nonsense. How old is this computer, Mr. Moten?
3 years old, Your Honor.
When did you buy yourself a new computer, Mr. Moten?
2008, Your Honor.
Why did you buy yourself a new computer?
Because I was getting deployed to Iraq, and the old computer, it was old and it was slower than my new computer, so I felt I needed more storage.
And you were taking the new computer to Iraq?
Yes, for business matters.
So you bought yourself a new one, and at that time you were involved with the defendant?
Yes, Your Honor.
She was your girlfriend?
She was my girlfriend at that point, Your Honor.
Tell me about when he gave you the computer.
When he came back home on leave, we were scheduled to be married, and he gave me the computer when he left back.
What did he say?
He didn't really say much. I mean, he just left it for me because he had a new computer. He didn't need it anymore.
What did he say to you?
There was no specific that, I mean, I recall that he said he just gave me the computer. We jointly lived together. I mean, I have a text message stating that I can have the computer after we broke up.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
If the screen goes blank, you can just press the OK button.
Bird is the button presser.
That would be his number listed below, his cell phone number.
It's cool to keep the laptop. Just give me my mail and my clothes. Did you send that to her?
I think so, Your Honor. Yes, I did.
So?
Well, at that point in time, I felt like at that point in time, I had no way of getting my laptop. I had to get...
Just a second. You went to Iraq, you came back, you broke up. The reasons for it are irrelevant to me. And when you came back, you asked her for the computer.
Yes, Your Honor.
And she said to you, you gave it to me.
No, she said, for me to give you my computer, you have to give me $400 for her ring.
And you said what?
I said, I don't owe you for the ring because I...
Fine. You said, I don't owe you for the ring. That's part of a counterclaim. I don't have to hear that just yet. But at some point, she had your mail and your clothes.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you said to her, it's okay, keep the laptop, which she's now had in her possession for over a year, correct?
Yes.
Keep the laptop, just give me my mail and my clothes. That's what you wrote. Did you get your mail?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you get your clothes?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Well, then she keeps the computer.
Well,
you
no,
made a bargain with her. You said, give me my mail, give me my clothes, you keep the laptop. You got your mail, you got your clothes, she keeps the laptop.
She was asking to keep the laptop because she needed internet access for her and her kids. I was being generous by letting her keep it, but...
Well, you were being generous by letting her keep it. That's what you said. Mr. Moten, were you out of the country serving your country at war?
Yes, Your Honor.
You saw lots of them?
Yes, I did.
You don't have to go back anymore, do you?
No, not at this point, Your Honor.
Great. And you're home? Safe and sound, right?
Yes.
And we're talking about a computer that was so old and slow that you got rid of it, that you bought yourself a new one.
Yes.
Right?
I did, Your Honor.
Just a second. Old, slow, you bought yourself a new one. You know how many old computers I have in my house? My husband says they're too slow. I said, where are you going? He said it has to be faster. But you got yourself a faster one, right?
Yes, I did.
Right? And you came home safe and sound. What are you bothering with minutiae for? What are you bothering with nonsense for, Mr. Moten? Especially when you said to give me my mail and my clothes and keep the laptop.
Well, I had important files on my laptop that I really wanted.
And you did without them for almost 2 years now, right?
Yes.
You'll do it without them for another 20.
I asked her to put it on a hard drive.
And did she?
No, she wanted to keep the whole laptop.
Just a second. Did he ask you to store some stuff for him?
No.
No, of course not. He's making it up as he's going along. Forget it, Mr. Moten. You got home safe and sound. You gave her the computer probably before you left because you got yourself a new one. That's what boyfriends do for their girlfriends. They say, here, let the kids use this one. Let the kids play games on this one because I got one that's faster, that's got more memory, that's got this. And then when you broke up, now you want your computer back. Well, and she's not going to give it to you. She's not going to give it to you because you gave it to her. Not once, probably, but twice. Now let's get to your nonsense counterclaim.
Okay. Your Honor, when he asked me to marry him, he agreed that I would go purchase the rings on my credit card, and when he came back 2 months later, he would pay the full bill. We later did break up, and we agreed that because he had one ring and I had the other ring, that he would pay half, and I also have an email saying that I will pay half. I don't have a problem with that, and here's the bill. But it's from a month ago, so there's still late payment charges on there. I haven't paid it. I have 3 children. I have more important bills to pay than a credit card bill.
Did you tell her to go buy 2 rings?
No, Your Honor. She bought the rings on her own.
It says, I will pay my half. I don't have a problem with that. Hope everything goes well with your new relationship. I wish you all the best. Did you send this to her?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Just a minute. You have 1 ring, correct?
Yes, I do.
Well, who's supposed to pay for that ring?
Well, she actually gave it to me as a gift, and she was asking me to pay for it.
Let me see it.
So the ring?
Yeah.
I didn't bring it, Your Honor. I forgot it.
Mr. Moten, you're really annoying me. I mean, you did get a copy of her counterclaim, did you not, about the ring?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Well, how could you not bring it if I wanted to look at it? How much was the ring that he has in his possession?
Here's the original bill.
That's what I want to see.
Okay. And then there's the interest and stuff incurred because he didn't pay the original bill, which we agreed that we would each split half of the bill last month.
All right. How much was his ring?
It was the less expensive one on there.
So his ring was $200?
I believe so.
You get to keep the computer, madam. And he owes you $200 for his ring. That's all.
Pardon that excuse, you may step out.
Krista Llewellyn is suing her stepfather, Ernest Flowers, for money loaned and the cost of a computer. Ernest says that Krista breached their contract.
Miss Llewellyn, this is your stepfather.
Yes, ma'am.
It is your claim that you made a couple of loans to your stepfather.
Correct.
One of them was to purchase a computer that he was supposed to pay off within a year.
Correct.
According to you. And the second loan was for what?
For a $600 post-dated check that he had, and he got into an accident, and they fell kind of behind on their bills. So he asked me to borrow the money, and I said sure, as long as he paid me back, because he had borrowed money before.
And that was $600?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much is owed on the computer?
$671.
Mr. Flowers, why in the world would you borrow money from your child?
First off, for the laptop, she had and her husband had an account with Dell, and it was purchased on that account because I could not get credit through Dell. I explained to her that I would make the payments faithfully, which I have.
Show me.
There's 3 months worth of payments. It shows that each month the payment was taken out.
When was it purchased?
It was purchased in February of 2006.
You're just showing me 3 months worth of payments.
Yes, ma'am. That's all the further back that I can go with my bank.
No, but you can get a statement from them as to how much you owe. How much was the computer?
I believe $2,000.
No.
How much was it?
A little over $1,000, like $1,029, $1,039.
Is that there?
Well, I have a printout from Dell, yeah.
Can I see it, please?
Everything.
So the computer was purchased in 2006.
Yes, ma'am.
March of 2006?
Yes.
Well, you know, you're never going to pay this thing off. What's the interest on it?
$25 every month, and I told them that.
You pay $50 a month towards the computer. Only $25 of that goes to the computer. You know what's going to happen? Mr. Flowers, the computer's going to break, and you're going to say, I'm not paying for a computer that I don't have anymore. By the way you're going, you won't be paying for this computer until 2010.
Those were the payments that were set up with her when it was purchased.
Is that right?
Those were the payments set up with me, but they told me within a year they would have it paid off. And I also have a statement from my husband because he talked to him also and said that it would be paid off in a year because we purchased a computer and paid it off within a year.
Did you tell her you'd have it paid off within a year?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Well, I accept this because it's a notarized statement for someone in the military and your husband is in Iraq.
Right.
He says that it was supposed to be paid off within a year.
I was in a car accident on June the 13th and planned on, when I got my settlement, of clearing that bill.
And?
And I have not received a settlement yet, so...
Well, when do you intend to get that, sir?
I have no idea. It is in the lawyer's hands right now.
Fine. As soon as you get it, you have to pay off the $671.
Yes, ma'am.
But he has been paying, according to this, he has been paying it every month.
Mm-hmm.
So next time, don't let anybody use your credit.
Right.
I can't do anything about the computer. Now tell me about this other check, sir, for $600.
When Krista and her husband first came back from Germany and Krista moved in with my wife and I, a couple days after they moved in, I'm not sure exactly when the date was. I know the date they moved in was June the 15th.
And she pays you rent.
She was paying $200 every 2 weeks.
So she was paying you $400 a month rent.
Yes, ma'am.
Which covered what?
As far as the rent on the house that I rent, it's $725, so...
So she was paying more than half of the rent that you were paying?
Yes, and she was not asked any money for the electricity, power, or gas.
So who cares? So who cares?
And she wasn't asked any money to help with the food.
That's not true. I was asked for money for the utilities, and I have proof, and I also have a witness that she couldn't pay her utilities the first month that I moved in. So when I moved in on June 15th, I gave her $400.
She give you money for utilities when she first moved in?
Gave him $400.
She gave me nothing, ma'am.
You gave it to who?
I gave it to him and my mother.
What about food?
I bought my own food. I have an 11-monthly baby food, and I have an 11-year-old, and I purchased my own food.
So she's paying you sufficient rent to live with you? Nice that she was paying you rent at all. My children, when they come home, never pay rent. Most don't. So I still don't understand the $600 loan.
Before he left, he and I were out in the garage, and he handed me $600 and said that he wanted me to take care of the payday loan that I had.
Your Honor.
Shh. Go ahead.
I explained to him at the time that I did not have the money to pay him back for that, and he said that was not a problem, that they had gotten extra money out of their taxes, and he wanted to help us out because we were helping out by having Krista live there while he was over in Iraq.
Sounded like she was helping you out. Sounds to me, Mr. Flowers, as if you were in certain financial distress, because if you took out a payday loan, it means you didn't have money to cover your own bills. Otherwise, people don't take out a payday loan. And she was paying more than half of the rent on your house. So I don't know who was helping whom. Certainly, I didn't see you doing anything for her. Her mother helped out with the baby, not you. I don't see what she got out of living with you.
As far as I'm concerned, I was at work. I worked 9, 10 hours a day.
You don't make enough money, sir, and your expenses exceeded what you earn. She was helping you out.
And at the time out in the garage when her husband gave me the money,
it's not what he says
that
here.
was a gift.
It's not what he says. It's not what he says in his notarized statement, sir.
Your Honor.
I can't help that.
It's not what he says in his notarized statement. In any event, you should have been able to take care of yourself. You're a grown man. You don't take money from your children. You owe her the $600. What else?
$180.42 for a gun that he had in pawn.
Well, tell me, that's curious. I want you to tell me when you got it out of the pawn shop for him.
I got it out on September 6th of '07. I went in with my sister because she was paying a pawn, and I saw his gun in the case actually for sale. So my mother's not such a nice woman. She just pawns his stuff for money and doesn't tell him sometimes. And I like Ernest. I think he's a really nice guy. And I mean, without her, he's a really nice guy. So I called him and I said, Ernest, did you know that you are going to lose your gun, that it's for sale? And he said, I didn't know that. And I said, the guy said that you could get it for $180.
Did she call you from the pawn shop?
She called me from the pawn shop, but she stated that the reason why she was calling was because the gentleman at the pawn shop had gotten strict instructions from me when I dropped it off there that he was not to release it to anybody but me.
He admits to owing me for the gun, though.
No. Because
yes, he does.
I didn't ask you to go pick the gun
I have
up.
a statement that he sent to small claims court saying that he owed me for the gun and for the dog.
Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Good.
He admits to owing me for the gun.
Shh. It says, do you agree that you owe the plaintiff money? Yes. If yes, how much do you agree that you owe? $344. I want you to look at this, sir. Did you remember you filled this out?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
But it says that you owe her then for the vet bill and the $180 for the gun.
Because she had asked me afterwards to be paid back, and because of the fact that she was nice enough to do that, I was going to pay her back to be nice.
Good. Now,
but then,
perfect.
Then she
so you
files
pay
this
it back to be nice. Good. So far you owe $780. Anything else?
Yes, I would like the return of my rent because I paid them rent on the 1st of October, and on the 3rd they threw me out. They had my stuff packed. They gave me 5 minutes to get my stuff. They kept some of my stuff. They broke some of my stuff.
Why did they throw you out?
Because my mother's got split personalities and she's just crazy. She's not
Why
the
did
same
you throw her
person
out?
from day to day.
The specific reasons I don't know. All I know is I got a phone call from my wife stating that Krista's attitude was to the point to where she wasn't willing to deal with it anymore.
Fine. So
and
you owe her rent.
No, ma'am, because of the fact that the extra utilities that were used.
Forget the extra utilities. It's ridiculous, Mr. Flowers. She paid you the rent the 1st of the month, and you threw her out the 3rd of the month. You owe her rent.
We did not throw her out. She was given the opportunity to either stay or drop her attitude. No. She chose to leave.
You can't have a tenant, and you have to make up your mind whether you treat somebody as a tenant or your child. If you treat her as rent from her, if you treat her as a tenant, and you tell her, well, I don't like your attitude, either you have to drop your attitude or you have to move out. That's throwing her out. Can't have it both ways. She has her $200 rent back. That's $980. Anything else?
No.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $980. Thank you. That's all.
Audrey Decker says her ex-roommates Trista Gray and Mark Robertson owe for bills and a rental deposit. Audrey also claims the couple falsely accused her of smoking pot.
Miss Decker, you and the defendants were roommates in an apartment or a house?
Correct. It was a 2-bedroom apartment above the downtown plaza.
And you met each other at work?
Yes, we did. We
that's all.
We're co-workers.
Sure. Signed the lease when?
On August 21st of last year. I have that with me if you'd like to see it.
Okay, and when did you move out?
It was January.
January what?
9th.
And you claim they moved out owing you money?
Yes, they did.
There's lots of other things that you're claiming, some of which is nonsense, but you claim that they owe you some money. One of the things they owe you money for is that they had not paid their entire security deposit.
They had not paid the deposit.
Just answer my question.
Yes, they had not.
They had not paid the entire security deposit. You paid it. They were supposed to pay you back, and there was some money outstanding. Correct. When they moved out on January 9th, 2008, in what condition was the apartment?
There were some burn marks in the carpet in the bedroom that they were in. There's nail holes, things that weren't there before.
Okay. Do you have photographs of the burns on the carpet?
No, I do not.
Were there burns on the carpet?
There might have been. We did smoke in the bedroom, yes.
Okay. Because if there was no damage to the apartment, then of course I would say to the plaintiff, you're going to get the security deposit back, so they don't have to pay you any more security deposit. But if there was damage that you did to the apartment, then you have to pay your half of the security deposit, because in all probability, the landlord is going to make her replace the carpet and charge her. Is that reasonable?
It is, but we don't believe we owe her anything because we have overpaid her on deposit.
Show me.
We don't have any proof of it, but we overpaid her over the deposit. We do believe we have.
Well, show me. What do you mean we believe?
We don't have
What did you poke him for? You want him to say something?
We don't have any proof because we did pay her. We believe we did.
How much did they pay you in the security?
They paid me $360. The arrangement was I
How
paid
much was the security deposit? Let's do
The
this.
$300 was what I put down that day for the deposit.
In total?
In total.
So they owed you $150?
No, the way it was we had our bills split 3 ways. Deb Schultz is a witness to that, that we agreed to split all bills, including electric, cable, deposit, rent, everything.
3, that they owed you $600? I want to know how much they owed initially for the security deposit, Ms. Decker.
They owed $200 initially, but they did not have money at the time.
I understand that.
I paid it all.
I understand that.
Okay.
How much did they give you towards the $200 in security deposit that they owed?
They gave me $360. They paid my part of the rent for September, October, November, and December, which was $90. And they also were paying me back for the $200 that I put down in the beginning to help buy food and everything because they, once again, didn't have any. So the total was $500. They paid $360 out of that by paying the rent.
So according to you, they owe $140 in security deposit?
Right. That's what they have left over from that particular amount, right.
What else do you think they owe you for?
They owe me for the cable and electric for the time which they were there from November to December because we had backed bills.
Just 1 second. They left January 9th. Did they pay January's rent?
They paid January's rent, correct.
Good, okay, because they should have paid January's rent because they were there until the 9th, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Why did you move out?
We couldn't handle her anymore. She became overpowering.
Okay, so there was a problem.
Correct.
You have bills showing that there were balances as of December 31st on any of the utilities?
I do.
Show me.
That's electric. This is cable. I have the amounts highlighted that I paid, and this is the receipt for the electric that I paid my share of. All that's left is what they have to pay.
When was the last time you paid utilities?
I paid utilities last
No, I'm
month.
talking to you.
Oh.
We didn't pay them.
No. You're showing me a bill from January 12th, 08 to February 11th, 08. They weren't living
Right.
there then.
That's what was due before.
Oh, balance brought forward $62.
Uh-huh.
62. So they owe $40.
No, the whole balance, the 164, is what was owed from the months before.
No,
It
that's
was-
not true.
The $150 is what we
That's
ultimately
not
paid.
true. Not according to this. According to this, payments received was $150.
$150 was what was paid. $62.19 was what was left over as a back balance.
$62.19 was what was left over from that bill. The other money is for the current service, which was from January 12th, 08 until February 11th, 08. I can read a bill.
Okay. Well.
So they owe $40 on this. Okay. The City of Fairmount Public Utilities was $364.
Correct.
And they're supposed to pay 2/3 of that.
Right.
Okay, so they owe you $280 in utilities and $140 for their security deposit. And what else do you think that they owe you for?
For slander.
Go ahead.
They told my boyfriend's mom here, Deb Schultz, that I was smoking marijuana, and that led to a lot of tension between him and I. We actually almost broke up over it because he disagrees with it along with drinking.
Did you tell this lady that she was smoking marijuana?
No, we did not. We do not have her number in any way. We don't have any problem with Deb Schultz in any way. She has been very helpful with the apartment in the beginning. Like I said, we do not have her phone number.
Your last name is?
Schultz.
You are the mother of the
her
boyfriend.
Yes.
Go ahead, but who called you?
I ran into them.
Oh, so nobody called?
No. I ran into them. They
When?
told me in December sometime.
Okay.
And they told me that Audrey was using drugs. So my
Did
son,
you ask what kind?
Yes, and she told me it was marijuana. And my son is really against girlfriends using any kind of drugs or
Okay,
alcohol.
so now she says it wasn't by phone, it was when you ran into each other. Did that happen?
I do not recall that.
Well, she does. Why would she lie about that?
I don't know, but I do not recall that.
Did she use marijuana while you were living together?
Yes, she did.
When?
Well, we were at a friend's house, and I was in the bedroom with my friend with her daughter watching a movie, and she was in there with my friend's boyfriend and Mark, and they were having a conversation about using marijuana, and Mark overheard it.
Overheard what?
Overheard the conversation about them using drugs. And Audrey had asked Mark not to tell me. On the way home, he told me.
What did you overhear, sir?
They were talking about hiding it, not letting me see it, but then giving it to my friend's boyfriend. And
But in all the time that you lived together with the plaintiff, she never smoked marijuana in your presence. What are you poking him for?
I didn't.
not to my knowledge, but
Well, you would not to your knowledge. You have eyes.
she would hide it. She would go out with friends, and
Don't tell me what she would hide it, sir. I'm asking you a very simple question. You never saw her smoke marijuana while she was in your presence.
no, ma'am.
Did you?
No.
First of all, they don't always get things right when they hear things. Is this your boyfriend?
Yes.
Step away from her for a second. That's fine. Have you ever said something to him and then a week later you say, don't you remember I told you that? And he says, you never said that to me. You told me this. So you never said that to you? That never happened?
Sometimes it happens.
Oh,
but
listen.
More than likely he pays attention because...
But I'm just asking you. Never said to you, you didn't say that. That's not what I heard. I don't remember you telling me we had this date. I don't remember you telling me your mother was coming over. I don't remember you telling me we're going out with your sister. None of that. No. It'll happen. They don't always get it right. And to have relied on that statement to make that statement to her boyfriend's mother was probably not good judgment.
Well, he wouldn't lie to me about marijuana because he knows my stance on it. He knows I disagree with it.
Well, and if you said to me that I saw her smoking marijuana I smelled it in the house, that's another story. But for all you know, she could be puffing and she could be showing off for a friend. You don't know that that's true. You lived together for 5 months and you never saw any evidence of it in your home. Saw, smelled, felt, right? So you probably should have kept your nose in your own business.
But we did have a conversation about her drug usage a while after that night at my friend's house, and she had admitted to doing it.
What did she say to you?
And she said she was going to continue doing it because she liked it. And I told her I do not agree with it.
Fine. You can have to agree with it. You're not her moral police. As long as she's not doing it in your home. It's not your business, but that's not slander.
No, what happened was...
It's not slander.
Okay. Well, I was talking about a different incident. There's something also very different that happened with work.
Do you have witnesses from work?
I do not have witnesses from work, but I do have my suspension paper. I got suspended because they were very good friends with this guy at work.
Listen to me.
Who?
That's all hearsay.
Even though I have a document saying that I was suspended?
Okay, whether you were suspended or not, I have to have a witness to tell me why you were suspended.
Well, the paper says why.
How do I know if the information they got from them is the only reason that they had to think that you were using drugs? How do I know that? That's not legal in a court. You can't use that as evidence in a court. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, fine. They owe you $320 for their share of the security deposit and the bills that they have. And next time, you have to be careful when you talk about somebody else's reputation. Do you understand? That's all.
Laura Francis says her niece, Tammy Wickham, owes for a loan for school tuition and 2 months' rent. Tammy claims she never agreed to pay the money back.
Miss Francis, the defendant is your niece?
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that she owes you money for a loan, for some school tuition, and also for rent that you were forced to pay on her behalf because you had signed a lease for her and her children to live in an apartment, and she did not pay the rent, so you were forced to. Ms. Wickham says that's absolutely ridiculous. You did, in fact, pay the tuition for her, but the reason you paid the tuition for her is that she was working for you at the time and you couldn't afford to pay her, so that you paid her tuition instead. And with regard to any other money, she said you have some nerve suing her because she actually made a loan to you for $25,000.
Correct.
When did you give her $25,000?
In February of 2007.
Where did you get $25,000 from?
I sold my home and had a large chunk from selling my home.
How much?
How much did I get from the house?
Yes.
$84,000.
And what did you give Miss Francis $25,000 for?
She had helped me out in a legal situation, and as a thank you, I lent her money. She was in a bind financially.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Now I'm going to ask you about it. Okay. Tell me about this $25,000. I'm curious.
I have no idea about the $25,000. She's never in her life lent me 5 cents.
Do you have any proof that you gave her $25,000?
I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it.
I would too.
Well, it's actually $27,000.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Just a second.
Okay. She gave me that money to hold for her because she couldn't trust herself to handle her money. She actually got, I think, $102,000 from selling her home. She spent all of that money on attorney fees, all of it, trying to get custody of the 5 children that she doesn't have custody of. And as you can see, she's having yet a 6th child.
So what you're telling me is this wasn't money she gave to you.
This was not money she gave me.
This is money she gave to you to hold for her.
To hold for her.
Did you ever give it back?
Absolutely. Every dime of it, and then some.
That's absolutely not true. If I needed her to hold my money, I would have given her the $84,000 she needed.
Maybe you spent it.
No, I actually
Yeah, you did.
have some of it left.
Oh, right.
Miss Wickham, you have 5 kids?
I do.
Where are they?
2 of them reside with their father. We have joint custody, and my younger 3 are with their father.
So there are 2 separate fathers?
Correct.
And who was the father of this baby?
The father of my younger 3, my husband.
But you're not living together?
No.
How long haven't you lived together?
Approximately 5 months.
They've never lived together.
Do you ever have a drug problem, Miss Wickham?
Never.
Where do you spend all your money?
I've been going to school for the last 4 years, and I have 5 kids.
Well, right now you don't have custody of any of your children.
It's only been 5 months prior
That's
to that.
a long time not to have custody of your children.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I do have custody of my older 2.
How old are they?
11 and 10.
They live with their father.
They're with me 42%. With him during the week, me weekends, and half of vacation and Wednesdays.
All right, Miss Francis. I have a feeling there's a lot more going on here that I don't know about and probably don't care to know about with regard to this, the facts of this case. Just trying to get a sense of where this $27,000 went.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Because
Go
I
ahead.
gave it all back to her.
Go ahead.
When she was living in my house when she got her kids back, it was almost 2 years. We fought to get her children back.
All right, so the children were taken by the state?
Yes. And then she got them back in, I think, July of 2008. And my sister, which is her mother, and I did everything we could to help her, to support her. Her mother finally in September threw her out. She's disrespectful. She's arrogant. Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
Tell me about this tuition
Okay.
loan.
She was collecting grants from school on a regular basis, and I have the school printout. She had to pay back $3,783 to the school because the foster parent called the school and told them that she had lied.
No, you can't tell me what the
okay.
foster parent says. She had to pay back $3,780.
Right. And she didn't have it. So she came and asked me if she could borrow it. She asked me, had been asking for about a week. And finally, I just got so fed up, I just said, okay, I'll put it on the credit card, but you're going to make the payment. She agreed. She says, if I pay them back $3,720, whatever it is, $83 now, in December, on December 31st, I will get $7,200.
You mean from financial aid?
Right, for going to school. So I agreed to do it so she could continue going to school because she wants to be a lawyer, and she's already in a good position to do that because she's a fabulous lawyer. Therefore, I lent her the money, okay? The next day, she told me, that night actually, she told me to go to in my own home. I'm letting her and her 3 children live with me, and she tells me she's very disrespectful. So I said, call the school. I'm not doing this, Tammy. I'm going to tell them I'm not paying the money. You are on your own. You figure it out. I called the school, and the lady at the financial...
Don't tell me what anybody said. Did you give her $3,780?
I paid the school tuition back, yes.
Okay. What else did you pay for her?
In October, because I couldn't live with her anymore, so I said, you got to go. She left my home. She called me the next day, and I said, where did you stay? She said, we slept in the park. Her and her 3 children in the park all night in the cold. It was in December, and it broke my heart. So she went to welfare, and they gave her vouchers to stay in motels, I guess, for a couple of weeks. But she came calling me, pleading again, Laura, please, can you help me? I can't rent an apartment in my name because I have bad credit, but can you please rent an apartment for me? And because Child Protective Services was coming to check on the residents to see that she had sufficient housing for the children. Not for her, Your Honor, but for the children. I did it. I went up to Victorville and I rented an apartment for her and the kids.
Go ahead.
And it was okay. Thank you.
Where did you expect her to get money to pay for
well,
this apartment?
This is what she said. I'm going to get $787 a month from welfare. I'm going to get $1,900 child support from the father of the 2 older kids. And I get $400 and some odd dollars of food stamps every month. I'm going to sell that to my friend Teresa, you know, the food stamps, not feed the kids, sell the food stamps for cash, and I can pay the rent. So I said, okay, one more time. So I did that, and that was October 14th, the day that the social worker was coming to check to see if she had sufficient housing for the children. And she came, and there was no furniture there, but she saw that it was a nice apartment. So that was good. And then December 5th, she was arrested again for leaving the children by themselves at 10 o'clock at night while she went to work at a bar from 10 to 2 in the morning.
How old are the children?
11 was the oldest, 9. The youngest was 6 months old, an infant. 3 under 3.5 years old.
What does the father do, the father of the 3 youngest children?
Well, he was working at somewhere, but she got him fired. He's not working now. He's taking care of the kids on unemployment, I believe.
And who does he live with?
His sister.
You see the children?
Yes.
You see them at your house?
No, we go wherever we have to go to see them. And he's very amenable. He and we and the kids get along great. They love us.
What about their grandmother? Do they see their grandmother?
Yes, they do.
You go together or
Yes.
separately?
Yeah, usually.
Okay, so she paid rent for a while, and how much rent did she not pay?
In December, she gave them a bad check, so they called me because, of course, I'm the contact, and said that now the rent was $990.
How much rent did you pay in her behalf?
$1,087 and some change.
How many months?
That was in December. Then she paid. She got out of jail and gave the lawyer all the money she was supposed to give me back for the school, the $3,700, and I was upset. But anyway, I had to pay it because it was in my name. So then again in March, she came to my house and says, I don't have the rent. You pretty much have to pay it because it's in your name. So you really don't have much of a choice, Laura, okay? I hated that, but I did it. I mean, it was the truth. It was in my name, so I paid it. She told me in March 20th she would get another $5,000 from school that she would give me. And she got another $5,000 from school, and I didn't get a dime of it. And then she got $2,900 for filing her income tax, and I didn't get a dime of that either. And
okay, got it. Okay, Ms. Wickham, I'll hear you.
I lived with my aunt while I was pregnant with my youngest for 9 months, and the agreement was I wanted to finish my last semester at school. She was going to pay my financial aid instead of paying me to work for her.
What kind of work did you do?
Real estate assistant. She's a realtor.
When you were living with her, how much rent did you pay her?
I paid $300 here and there, but she would never take my money.
How much rent did you pay her every month?
We had no agreement.
The answer is nothing. How much did you pay her towards utilities?
I would give her $300. I was working here and there.
How much did you? I thought you were working for her in real estate.
I was, but I also worked as a waitress Friday and Saturday nights.
And how much did you pay her to maintain the food in the house?
I bought my own food and also bought food for her.
Is that right?
No.
Of course not. Nonsense. Did you finish school?
I did, just recently.
Did you graduate?
I'm going to graduate this semester. I'll be walking.
Now, I don't know what your problems are. Clearly you have some. If you have an aunt who loves you and has been supportive, and you have a mother who loves you and has tried to be supportive, and these 2 women in your life have had it with you up to here, you have to acknowledge at some point that you're doing something wrong. And one of the things that you're doing wrong is somebody who can't take care of their children doesn't have another one.
That's the issue. That's why they're upset. Yes.
Hey,
My aunt told me in an email here if I had another child, and she emailed this to my husband, who she dislikes, that if we had another child, she would do everything in her power to make sure none of us ever saw any of our 5 kids again.
I want to tell you something. She's absolutely right. I don't understand except that the laws in this country, unfortunately, don't always protect children. Because if I were in charge of your children, and if I didn't have the law as a constraint, I don't think that you or your husband, who you don't live with, is an appropriate caretaker for your children. Because your children have been all over the globe. Your children were taken away and were in foster care. They were in your custody. You left them alone. An 11-year-old with a 6-month-old. And where was the father all this time? Where was his head? Somewhere where it's very, very dark, because he knows, listen, she can't take care of 5 children, so what are we going to do? We're going to have a 6th. Ridiculous. You got to find some other hobby. You got to find some other hobby. And evidently school wasn't enough. Should have had school and work and been so busy that you didn't have time to make number 6. Unfortunately, you can't do anything about it, but I'm telling you, I would watch very carefully, because there's something not right in the wheels up there. And I don't know about the fathers of these children, because I haven't met them, but certainly these children have not gotten the childhood that they were entitled to, which was a certain sense of continuity and living in the same place and not living in a park and not living alone and not living without furniture and living with a father and living with a mother and living with an aunt. Come on, grow up. First way to grow up is to acknowledge what you owe, and you owe your aunt $5,000. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
I realized that I didn't know my wife at all. It seemed to me that she was my soulmate and we were made for each other. But my illusion was shattered against reality. However, I had a trump card up my sleeve that my cheating wife didn't even know about, and she thought I was just a worthless guy. You should have seen her music face. It was time for me to move forward. My SUV was parked in the airport's long-term parking lot. I estimated I had about 2 weeks before anyone noticed the prolonged presence of the vehicle. Carrying only my briefcase and a travel bag, I headed towards the Delta terminal. Inside my briefcase were all my identification documents, a few thousand in various bills, and my travel papers. To an outsider, everything would seem completely ordinary unless they knew me personally. You see, all the documents bore a different name, but my face was on them where photos were required, including my driver's license and passport. I was embarking on a new life with a new identity. Upon entering the terminal, I commenced the boarding process. The TSA operated with great efficiency. They examined my ticket, x-rayed my briefcase, wallet, and car keys, finding no bombs, water bottles, or other prohibited items. They correctly assessed that I posed no threat and allowed me to proceed. My next destination was the men's room, where I stepped into a stall and began shedding my outer garments. Beneath them, I had a fresh set of clothes ready, transforming from a suited businessman to a casual tourist. I donned a flashy shirt, shorts, and summery shoes. Emerging from the restroom, I blended in with the passengers returning from a flight from Las Vegas, resembling just another tourist from the city of fun. Following the crowd to baggage claim, I claimed a nondescript suitcase left unattended on the conveyor belt. With no one noticing, I swiftly took it and exited through the doors, boarding the interterminal transport. I disembarked at another terminal after 10 minutes, entering the men's room once more. I discarded another layer of clothing into the stolen suitcase. Approaching the ticket counter, I checked in my acquired bag, presented one of my new IDs, and retrieved my boarding pass. Rather than confronting the TSA checkpoint, I navigated through the bustling shopping area, slowly making my way towards the exits. Soon, I found myself back on the tram heading towards Continental's terminal, where this time I planned to board a plane and leave the airport behind. Before long, I was aboard one of their international flights, successfully assuming a new identity. A first chapter of my life began. Now, my cheating wife will never locate me or my money. Allow me to elucidate the catalyst behind this endeavor of altering my identity. Let me commence by introducing myself. I hail from Western New York State, born in 1960. My high school graduation placed me somewhere in the middle of my class, neither academically nor physically remarkable. I was just an average youngster. My parents were not affluent professionals, My mother tended to household duties while my father toiled in construction. I pursued higher education at a local college while residing at home during the academic term. I held a part-time position at a fast food establishment, and during summer breaks, I assisted my father in construction. My college performance was unremarkable, maintaining a modest 2.6 GPA throughout 4 years, juggling work and academics. I failed to devote myself entirely to my studies, merely doing enough to scrape through. Upon earning my business degree, I ventured into the professional realm, only to encounter disappointment as prestigious firms overlooked me. My average academic record from an ordinary college and a conventional business program failed to capture attention amidst the sea of outstanding graduates. Consequently, my time was consumed by job hunting rather than pursuing lofty career prospects. Eventually, I secured employment with a small property management company. Instead of a corner office with a personal secretary, I was assigned a desk, a telephone, and a plethora of responsibilities for meager starting pay. My collegiate aspirations of formal attire, structured hours, and a corporate setting were shattered. I quickly discovered that, in a small business, everyone wore multiple hats. I handled tasks such as collecting overdue rent from tenants, assisting with evictions, and interviewing prospective tenants. I even pitched in with the maintenance team, helping to clean and paint units for new tenants. While the pay wasn't substantial, I gained invaluable experience in the real estate industry by diving into every aspect of the business. As I immersed myself in learning, I developed a deep passion, not for a romantic partner, but for the real estate profession itself. My boss, the owner, noticed my growing enthusiasm for the field and took me under his wing. Despite having adult children of his own, none shared his interest in inheriting the business. It seemed I became the surrogate child he had always desired someone to impart his wisdom to. One day he summoned me to his office. "Billy, take a look at these bank foreclosures and give me your thoughts on potential investments," he instructed. "I've never tackled this before," I confessed. "Don't worry, I'll review your suggestions before making any decisions, but I need your findings after lunch," he replied, with lunch at his company scheduled for noon. In the time nearing 10 o'clock, I realized I had little time to spare. He's given me quite a tight deadline, I thought to myself. Skipping lunch, I devoted the next 3 hours to examining the listings. Eventually, I identified a few properties that I believed would pique his interest. At precisely 1 o'clock, I presented my recommendations to him. He listened attentively for nearly an hour before interjecting. "So far, everything you've chosen is subpar," he remarked bluntly. "Come here and I'll demonstrate how it's done." He invited me over, and over the remainder of the week, we meticulously evaluated the options. By the end, we had pinpointed several properties with promising potential. It was a week of immense learning during which I also came to recognize that my assuming boss was, in fact, a real estate prodigy. He participated in the bidding for 4 of our selections and succeeded in winning only 1. The successful bid was for a 4-family apartment building constructed in the early 1910s. It was located in a neighborhood situated on the outskirts of an affluent area populated by young married couples and college students. Although the building required extensive renovation, we acquired it at a remarkably low price, and the bank agreed to provide all necessary construction loans while postponing the mortgage payments for 6 months. Essentially, this meant that we acquired the building with minimal upfront costs and had sufficient funds to carry out the necessary renovations. At the closing, he handed me the keys and remarked, "It's your project now. Get started tomorrow." Over the following 6 months, I experienced a roller coaster of emotions ranging from elation to despair and back again. In the midst of it all, I gained valuable insights into the rental business. By the time the first mortgage payment came due, all the apartments were rented out and things were beginning to run smoothly. Shortly afterward, my boss surprised me once more. "Bill, sign these papers for the 4-family property we purchased." "Of course, but why?" I inquired. "Because I'm transferring ownership to you. It's your building now," he explained. "What?" I exclaimed in disbelief. "Bill, I'm getting older and I want to pass on my knowledge to someone. I hope you'll allow me to pass it on to you. My children will likely sell off all my properties when I'm gone, as is their birthright. So, Let's kickstart your own real estate business. Consider this my small gift to you. And that's how it all began. Soon, I established Bilko Properties LLC and embarked on my journey in the real estate industry. About 5 years later, my friend and mentor passed away as he had foreseen. His children liquidated all his assets, seeking top market value for each item. Eventually, they found a buyer willing to meet their price. By that time, I had accumulated 15 properties of my own, all situated in prime locations and fully occupied. My financial strategy relied on rental income with the aim that if at least half of a property was leased, it covered all associated expenses. Fortunately, most of my buildings maintained full occupancy. While I wasn't wealthy, I was also not facing financial difficulties. Things were going reasonably well. I seized the opportunity to acquire several commercial properties when the individual who had purchased my late boss's business went bankrupt. His misguided belief that hiring excessive staff and spending most of his time on the golf course would suffice had worked to my advantage. I was 30 years old when I encountered the woman who would later become my wife. Having bought a piece of commercial real estate in a decent neighborhood, she and a friend rented one of the office spaces to establish a decorating business. When they first met me, I was dressed in my usual attire, blending in as just another laborer. In contrast, they were impeccably dressed, resembling models straight out of a fashion magazine. Perhaps as interior decorators, they felt the need to leave a lasting impression. And they certainly did, especially Wendy, the more assertive of the pair, who captured my heart. In my imagination, I envisioned Wendy standing in front of a charming cottage enveloped in vines, with 2 young children eagerly awaiting their father's return from work. And in that picture, I saw myself as the husband she awaited. When I presented the rental price to them, their expression suggested they couldn't afford the place. I said, though this building has quite a few vacancies. Though I fibbed, there was only one other vacancy. I can offer you a discounted introductory rate for the first year. How much of a reduction, they asked simultaneously. Probably about half if that works for you, I replied. The owner allows me some flexibility in setting introductory rates. They eagerly accepted my offer and signed a 1-year lease with an option for another year, with the rent to be determined later. Could we have the owner's name and address to express our gratitude? Wendy inquired. I provided them with a fake first name and my mother's maiden name, along with the company's P.O. box. I explained that the owner preferred not to be bothered, so a brief note would suffice. Over the next year, I assisted them with various issues while disguised as just another employee. I observed their small business gradually gaining momentum. By the beginning of their second year, they renewed their lease at a higher rate, albeit still around 25% lower than what other tenants were paying. As I mentioned earlier, they were truly lovely people. Wendy, the one I had feelings for, informed me one day that her partner was getting married and would be relocating to the West Coast with her new spouse. Before our lease ended, she asked, "Can we break the lease? I don't think I can manage it financially with my partner leaving. I'm not sure about breaking the lease, but I can lower the rent back to its previous level. My boss dislikes vacant office spaces." In reality, I didn't want her to leave, I said. Her face lit up with a broad smile and I received a kiss. That kiss sealed it for me. I fell in love. Later, as we parted, she gave me a different look and a special smile that marked the beginning of our relationship. A year later, I found myself exchanging vows at the altar. Within a year of marriage, our daughter was born. Wendy struggled during pregnancy and childbirth. Her doctor advised against further pregnancies, so she opted for tubal ligation. Although our sex life remained satisfying, her desire for intimacy decreased while mine remained unchanged. Wendy's libido diminished, and she redirected her efforts toward her business. Thereafter, unaware of my true role, she began treating me with little respect, seeing herself as the primary breadwinner. I attempted to convey that I owned multiple properties, but she never gave me the chance. Whenever I tried, I was met with, "I don't want to hear about your work, it's dull." To maintain my family, I accepted her low opinion of me. She remained beautiful while I felt average. By tolerating her criticisms, I preserved my marriage and family with my lovely wife and daughter. My daughter quickly became the center of my world. When I wasn't engrossed in a real estate deal, I dedicated every spare moment to her. Witnessing her growth was my sole purpose for persevering through life. Unfortunately, Wendy and I grew apart as she was lured away by wealthy clients. Nevertheless, I persisted in my property investments, some for the long term, others for quick profit. Unbeknownst to Wendy, I was gradually accumulating wealth. As Wendy grew increasingly disdainful and distant, I found myself relegated to the spare bedroom with reasons cited, such as excessive snoring and disruptive sleep habits. Despite being allowed occasional visits to our bed, these dwindled over time. However, I tolerated this situation solely for the sake of my daughter. Confronting Wendy risked divorce, wherein the common belief was that the mother would retain custody and the father would be left with financial burdens. My love for my daughter prevented me from accepting the prospect of being cut out of her life by a selfish spouse. I directed my frustration and solitude into my real estate venture, operating my company with fervor akin to a covert operation. Employing a network of interconnected corporations, multiple P.O. boxes, and diverse office fronts. Most of my staff operated from separate locations within my main office. Only my loyal bookkeeper and I occupied the space, with other employees assuming I was merely another worker. I never bothered to correct their assumptions. By the time my daughter Amy turned 15, I possessed approximately $25 million worth of mortgage-free properties, along with an additional $50 million in properties burdened with mortgage debt. These holdings were registered under various corporate entities across different addresses, with rent payments directed to various P.O. boxes. Some of the rental income was diverted to offshore numbered accounts to evade taxation. By this point, I had amassed considerable wealth. I possessed nearly 100 properties, but they had evolved from the simple 3- and 4-family apartment buildings I initially invested in. They now included large apartment complexes, strip malls, commercial office space, and 10 to 20-story buildings, and even a sizable shopping mall. Over the years, Amy and I had developed a strong bond. I took on the role of the consistent parent in her life, attending her sports games, comforting her when she was sick, and accompanying her on shopping trips, filling in the gaps left by her busy mother. Meanwhile, Wendy was thriving in her own business endeavors. As I maintained a modest lifestyle and refrained from flaunting my wealth, she continued to perceive herself as the primary breadwinner in our family. I didn't correct her misconceptions, fearing that acknowledging my financial success might lead to divorce. Wendy now viewed me with disdain, seeing me as a failure dependent on her achievements to elevate my status from that of a second-class citizen in our household. I would need a significant promotion. While I tolerated her behavior towards me, I began to conceal more of my wealth and offshore accounts as Wendy decided to upgrade. Wendy, operating a decorating business, needed to employ highly artistic individuals. I admit I harbored some prejudices, feeling uncomfortable around these individuals. Wendy noticed my discomfort and made a deliberate effort to inconvenience me whenever I visited her office, assigning the more flamboyant ones as my assistants. These individuals struggled to respect boundaries, which Wendy found amusing. I did not share her amusement. To me, this was just another manifestation of Wendy's disdain for me. Nonetheless, I endured her treatment in order to remain in my marriage and be close to my daughter. I allowed myself to become submissive. My husband Bill was pleasant enough, but he lacked ambition, whereas I was driven, always striving to improve our circumstances. I felt held back by Bill's lack of motivation. While he was an average lover and the father of our only child, he doted on our daughter, treating her like royalty and always being there for her. However, I felt neglected by Bill. I questioned what had attracted me to him in the first place, as he seemed just average to me. He was content in a dead-end job, working as a gopher for a reclusive real estate mogul. When I was starting my business with my friend Millie, Bill was accommodating, but essentially acted as the landlord's assistant. I was able to manipulate him to secure favorable terms on rent and other perks. As Millie and I parted ways during our second year in business, it became evident that we had different approaches. I was assertive, sometimes using flirtation to win over male clients and catering to the interests of female clients who were bi-curious. Millie, unlike me, had strong morals. I enjoyed the excitement of playing around. Millie and I went our separate ways before our second year in business concluded. She relocated to the West Coast with her boyfriend, driven away by my unpleasant behavior. She left me with the business and all its assets without receiving anything in return. Concerned about affording the full rent for my upscale office suite without Millie's assistance, I used my feminine charms on Bill. As a result, I secured a reduced rent for another year. I expressed gratitude to him with a kiss, initially as a thank you and a playful gesture. However, I unexpectedly found myself enjoying the kiss, feeling a physical response. Perhaps it was due to a lack of fulfilling romantic encounters with either gender for over a month. Despite Bill's shortcomings, he proved to be a competent lover. He prioritized my satisfaction, adhering to the principle of ladies first, ensuring I was always pleased before attending to his own needs. This was a refreshing change from my past experiences with inconsiderate male partners who prioritized their pleasure over mine. While my encounters with female partners rarely left me satisfied, my interactions with them were solely business-related, focused on winning their favor rather than personal pleasure. However, outside of the bedroom, Bill was rather dull. He lacked knowledge and interest in current events, literature, art, or other notable figures. Attempting to engage him in conversation at social gatherings often proved futile, as he could only discuss real estate and accounting topics that bored most of my friends. I attempted to introduce him to cultural outings, such as opera performances, philharmonic concerts, and contemporary plays. However, my efforts mainly revolved around struggling to keep him from dozing off. Fearing the embarrassment of his snoring, given my involvement in the decorating business, I found myself obligated to attend various charity functions to boost my visibility and reputation. Despite bringing Bill along to these events, he typically remained passive, making minimal contributions to the evening. His attire often fell short, rendering him more of a hindrance than a help. Though I realized I should have worked on improving his image, I was preoccupied with expanding my business. On one occasion, I received an invitation to a charity event. This time, I chose not to inform Bill until it was too late for him to alter his prior plans. "Bill, I'll be attending the event even if you can't join. It's crucial for my business, and you understand that our lifestyle depends on it," I asserted. "But Wendy, won't it reflect poorly if you go alone?" Bill inquired. "I'll bring one of my decorators along. He'll be flamboyant enough to dispel any assumptions of a romantic involvement," I reassured. It was during this gathering that I encountered James, the individual who would later become my romantic partner. Positioned at one of the bars, searching for my intended companion, I had a hunch that he had slipped away with another gay attendee, leaving me alone. "Pardon me, but I couldn't help but notice that you've been abandoned by your escort," James remarked. "I'm James William Hawthorne, and I would be honored to accompany you tonight, if you'd permit me." As I glanced at him, the initial thought that crossed my mind was, wow, he's incredibly attractive. He exuded elegance in his attire and speech, giving off an air of wealth. I agreed to spend the evening with him, and we had a fantastic time together. During the taxi ride home, I realized I was feeling a bit aroused. It wasn't because of Bill this time. It was James who had stirred these sensations within me. I found myself pondering how James would fare in satisfying me. Would he possess the capability to satisfy me fully? While my husband Bill adored me and always prioritized my pleasure, the rest of the time he seemed rather dull. About a week later, James called me, inviting me to lunch and seeking my opinion on redecorating his office, and that marked the beginning of it all. Within a month, we became lovers, meeting 2 or 3 afternoons a week in different hotels. He became my lover, but I can't say he surpassed Bill. Bill always prioritized my pleasure, while James treated me more like a sexual object. Whereas Bill treated me like a queen, being with James was exhilarating, even if he only saw me as a sexual object. He pushed me to do things that Bill would never have considered. Some days I felt sore from the activities James initiated. I craved the degradation, the sensation of being treated like a mere. I embraced my submissive nature, while he embodied dominance. I felt destined to satisfy his every desire. Refusing James anything seemed inconceivable. I grew weary of Bill's tender affection. I yearned for James' dominance. I belonged entirely to him. He even began inviting other men into our bed, sharing me with his friends. I never wanted this arrangement to end. Consequently, I decided to get my own apartment, a space where James and I could spend all our free time together. With determination, I devised and executed a plan. Bill, I've decided to rent an apartment in the city. The commute from this unattractive farm to my office is eating up too much of my time. Takes nearly an hour each way, time I could better spend on work. I understand your attachment to this farm, but I need to be closer to the city. You and Amy can continue living here without any disruption. But Wendy, he began. I interrupted him. There is no room for debate. My decision is final. I've already chosen between two options, and I'll be moved in by the end of the month. I noticed the hurt in Bill's eyes. Don't worry, honey. I'll still come home on weekends for you and Amy. I proceeded with my plans, with James helping me select a luxurious apartment just minutes away from my office. To involve Bill, I showed him the apartment and asked for his approval. Before he could respond, I added, I knew you'd love it too. I'll use it to showcase my decorating skills. As we left the building, I observed that the building manager recognized Bill. I assumed they had met at some real estate event Bill frequently attended. Wendy had decided to get an apartment in town to avoid the long daily drive back to our country house. Or so she claimed. This was the day I realized my marriage was over. I had suspected Wendy of having an affair, but until now I couldn't be certain. Now there was no doubt. Wendy was unaware that I owned the apartment building where she leased. It was one of my higher-end units. When my manager spotted me, he wanted to discuss matters, but I maintained a facade of mere acquaintanceship, not acknowledging our employer-employee relationship. Later, he approached me about my wife and her lover. My heart shattered. Perhaps I still harbored feelings for Wendy, but I was unsure of how to cope with her betrayal. My only recourse was to gather enough evidence of her infidelity and questionable character to potentially gain custody of our children. My supervisor informed me that my wife, along with her lover, selected the apartment and completed the application together. They had jointly rented the apartment, which became their love nest. He and I decided to install video and audio surveillance in the apartment before Wendy could move in. I had more than enough funds to cover the expenses for the work and equipment installation, which we arranged to be done in the manager's office. The tenants believed that a new building security system was being installed. This time, I ensured that Wendy paid the entire rent, which was slightly higher than other units. However, since her current boyfriend covered the difference, it didn't concern me. I ensured that the apartment was under our name to prevent any potential legal challenges regarding the admissibility of the evidence gathered through video and audio recordings in court. I began gathering evidence for divorce proceedings. Since Wendy had essentially moved out of our home, my monthly visits to her bedroom ceased. Despite her promises to be home on weekends, she never followed through. I grew close to the 5 sisters, and my purchases of hand cream noticeably increased. When Wendy finally decided to pay a visit home for the weekend, our daughter Amy was overjoyed to have her mother around again. Amy, at that stage in life where maternal presence was crucial, longed for female bonding and conversations. Dad just didn't fulfill that role anymore. Amy began idealizing her mother and Wendy's lifestyle, and I assumed it was a passing phase, so I went along with it. Little did I realize how mistaken I was. When Wendy finally graced me with a visit to our bed, I found myself unable to perform. Images of her with her lover and the sounds of their encounters filled my mind. She indulged his every desire, acting as a submissive. I could hear him demeaning me as they engaged in acts, with her consenting to his judgment of my inadequacy as a lover and a man. "Bill, what's the matter with you?" she asked after my unsuccessful attempt to become aroused. "I'm sorry, Wendy, but I have a lot on my mind. I'll do better next time, I promise." But next time never came. Wendy's partner sent the rent payments for her apartment to a rent collection P.O. box, where they eventually reached me. I made copies and deposited the originals into the bank. Many of you might be wondering why I didn't seek a little retaliation while he was involved with my spouse. Well, don't worry, I did. The bank manager I dealt with for my business was not only a good friend of mine, but also of the manager at my wife's bank. Just for kicks, we began monitoring his finances. Before long, we realized he was teetering on the edge financially, and we wanted to lend him a hand. After a few months, we discerned a pattern in his financial activities. It appeared that he frequently found himself short of funds every couple of months and relied on the float time between deposits and withdrawals to get by. His accounts were consistently short of cash, so if his rent check for my wife's apartment was deposited at specific times of the month, it would bounce due to insufficient funds, or even better, cause some of his wife's checks to bounce as well. Do you catch my drift? Thus, we began to manipulate his accounts. Before long, he began experiencing financial penalties from my company for bounced checks and overdue rent payments. Additionally, he incurred bank fees for his wife's return checks. Embarrassingly, many of her checks started getting declined at her preferred store, leading to awkward situations with her friends when splitting lunch bills. Our scheme was unfolding exactly as planned. The accumulation of return check fees and penalties adversely affected his credit score, prompting concern from his credit. I killed my baby and my boyfriend's family hates me. I, 19F, found out I was pregnant a month ago. I've been on birth control since I was 15. Same pill. I'm enrolled in school, have a job, and an apartment in a city close to home. I have a cat too. Everything was perfect. 6 weeks ago I missed my period. Waited 10 days, missed my period. This wasn't normal. I originally started the pill because of my irregular period. Did I miss a pill? I counted twice, 3 times, for no extras. I looked at the open pack I had for this month and the unopened one for next month. They weren't expired. They were exactly the same, down to the print of the expiration date. I fished the trash can for last month's empty package. Same thing. I couldn't stop thinking about it. On the way to class that morning, I grabbed 3 pregnancy tests from the campus bookstore. I sat my coffee and breakfast sandwich outside the bathroom door and went in. I've never taken a pregnancy test, but I've always heard the phrase pee on a stick, so I opened all 3 and used them at the same time. I waited 3 minutes and washed my hands, grabbing each of the tests and a paper towel. All 3 of them were positive. I cried. Dry heaved. I wanted to pass out on the bathroom floor. I called my boyfriend, and he was as excited as ever. I was panicking, saying we weren't ready for a baby. How I couldn't stay in school and work with a newborn. How I would lose everything. I'm not ready. I don't want children right now. He started to say how I was selfish and would just have to put my classes and whatnot on hold until the baby was old enough to go to daycare. That made me nauseous. I told him I was coming home, and he met me there. He held me and cried, saying how happy he was. I felt so disgusted with myself for knowing I didn't want this baby after seeing him cry like that. I wanted to try and keep the baby for him. I thought about having the baby and just leaving him with it. I thought about disappearing and never having the baby. After a few days, I had to ask what he thought of me getting rid of the baby. He told me he would hate me. He would never speak to me again. He laid into me, going on and on about me being a baby killer, how I was selfish, evil, and immature for even thinking something like that. We got into a huge argument from there, and I made him leave. He broke my TV and my favorite vase. I cried for him for days, begging him to take me back. He said I would if I kept the baby. Needless to say, he didn't take me back. I spent every night after that drinking bottle after bottle of Jim Beam whiskey, apple-flavored, my dad's favorite. I miscarried in the dead of night on a Thursday. Thought I had a real bad stomach bug until I saw the blood in my toilet. My neighbor took me to the hospital, where my now ex's sister works. He showed up with my mom, and his dad. While she half-hugged me and his mom and dad made comments about how I probably did this on purpose, considering I didn't want the baby anyway. I just kept my mouth shut. My mom asked if they were here to support me or their son, and if they weren't here for me, they should just leave. They started arguing, and eventually it got loud and security escorted everyone out. But not before my ex and his family could start shouting at the top of their lungs how I'm a baby killer and I'm gonna hell and yada yada yada. I'm in so much pain. I'm so tired and I'm so angry everything had to come to this. I really loved him and now I feel like I'm losing everybody because of this. Edit. This post got a lot more attention than I thought it would. I'm a little overwhelmed. Lots of messages and comments. I really appreciate all the genuine support from people. I'm going to try and take the good advice here and ignore the mean people. Thank you all so much again. All updates were added to the original post. So one update says hello again. For those of you wondering, I'm 19, my ex is 23, and I'm still in the hospital. My ex's family is gone and my mom went home a bit ago. If my vitals stay where they need to be, I can leave tomorrow. I'm trying to convince myself the miscarriage isn't my fault, but I still feel like crap. But I really do appreciate everyone trying. I did see a lot of comments about the potential HIPAA violation. I'm going to report it once I'm closer to leaving. I feel very anxious about reporting it while I'm still here. Also, I really don't think my ex would tamper with my birth control, but I also didn't think he was abusive until you guys pointed it out. I honestly just feel so confused and hurt, and I'm ready to get out of this dumb hospital. I understand this is my fault I'm in here though. What I did was pretty dumb. Sorry for the boring update, but I'm really tired. Thank you all so much for the kind words. And update 2 says, I woke up to twice as many comments and messages than yesterday. You guys have absolutely shredded my inbox. I never knew so much kindness could exist in one place, and I've actually cried at a lot of these. You all are so amazing. I will be going home soon. The hospital staff compiled a list of resources for me. Therapy, support groups, substance abuse treatment, etc. My ex went back to my apartment and disabled the Wi-Fi cameras I had set up. I had to block him and his family members after I got almost 100 messages. So I'll be returning with my dad. I asked the night nurse to make sure my ex's sister was not my nurse for today, as she made me feel really uncomfortable. So I shouldn't see her anymore. I'm really gonna try and take all the advice you guys give me. I'm probably not going to update this post again. Last thank you, and I truly mean thank you all. This is another sad but realistic case of a man trying to have total control over his girlfriend or wife's body. She's 19 years old and doesn't feel like she is able to provide the best life for her child. So I completely agree and support her decision to not have the kid. Now, I don't know if drinking whiskey to the point that you have a miscarriage is the best way to handle it, but man, she was under a lot of stress and pressure from her ex's family. So I think we can kind of give that a pass. But glad that she's being supported and not made to feel like the villain from the people of Reddit. Story 2. Boyfriend put me down repeatedly during a party last night and I haven't been able to sleep. Don't know what to do, but I won't live like that if this is going to become a new thing. We've been dating for a little over a year, but we were friends for 3 years before that. He was never like this before now, and ick where it's coming from, but it just makes me so upset. We had some friends and some new people we were trying to get to know over, and at one point, I guess as an icebreaker, someone brought up favorite movies and we all started giving top 3s while oohing and awing appropriately. As well as, oh, I haven't seen that one, what is it about? And similar. Well, when it got to me, I listed them, and my boyfriend, who had been drinking to be fair, started laughing and talking about how bad each of them were respectively. And I tried to laugh along. But then he was laughing at me and saying, so you admit you have bad taste? You admit your taste sucks? Why do I ever let you pick movies again? And like, I would not drop it. Like, someone had already tried to continue to their favorites and he just circled it back like, see how those movies are actually worth watching? I mean, what were you thinking? Just laughing his head off? Again and again. It got ridiculous. Like, whenever I went to make popcorn, he side-eyed me and asked the group if they thought I could handle that alone. Not the last time he brought it up. He continued to randomly make fun of me throughout the night, no matter what we were talking about in that moment. And eventually, even the other people there started getting uncomfortable with the comments. If he didn't notice that or what, but I was so embarrassed that at one point I had to excuse myself to the restroom to calm down. After they left, I asked him what that was all about and he just looked at me all confused. And when I explained, he asked if I was really going to quote, make a big deal about some jokes and rolled his eyes before going to bed. To give you context, because I know it seems like I'm freaking out over nothing, more than one of those people invited have reached out to me to ask if everything is okay, and if him and I are fighting because his behavior was so uncharacteristically mean-spirited. I haven't responded to any of them yet, because I'm so effing embarrassed and upset. Like, why the EFF would he act like that? Part of me feels like he was genuinely trying to joke, but alcohol made him overshoot into being a dick. But if we don't have a real conversation when he wakes up, I'm done. I grew up in a house where I was always the butt of the joke, and I'm not going to spend my adult life in that situation as well. I can't. I'm putting this here because I don't want to talk to anyone about it IRL until I get his side fully, because if I talk to my friends about how I feel right now, I know they'll jump to, pack up what stuff you have at his place before he wakes up and go home. And like, I don't really need advice right now, just to vent about my boyfriend acting like a total douchebag. BF decided to try to embarrass me in front of friends, as well as near strangers, to the point friends are reaching out in concern, hoping it was the alcohol talking, but if it wasn't, I have bigger issues. Now let's check out some relevant comments. User 1 says, "That's so tiring and frustrating to read. I can perfectly imagine how confusing it is to be treated like this by the person who claims they love you. I'm so sorry. I don't know why he did it, but I know that you don't deserve it." And OP replies, "Thank you, I don't know either. It has really been weighing on me. I haven't been able to sleep all night because I can't stop thinking about it. It's just rough." Then OP was asked if her boyfriend makes jokes like that at every party. OP says, "Yeah, that's the crazy part. We've known each other for 4 years and I've never seen him act like this. Ever. I didn't ask much of anything because after they left, he just wanted to go to sleep. I stayed up to clean, not because he asked or anything. He would have helped if I waited until he woke up. But I needed something to do and cleaning helped. And the more I thought about it, the more confused and upset I am." User 2 says, "That was crappy behavior and make sure you don't stand for it. I'm super curious about the movies you listed though. What were they?" OP says, "Sure, haha. My favorite movie of all time is Girl Interrupted. Next up is the 1967 Bonnie and Clyde, and then The Descent or Creep 2. His complaints ranged from Girl Interrupted being a, quote, Joker movie for chicks to making fun of Bonnie and Clyde for being an old movie to including Creep 2, but not the first one. Who likes a sequel better than the original? And the answer is just me? I do." User 3 says, "I think how he responds when he is sober will be telling. If he's genuinely sorry and recognizes he went too far, is apologetic, then you can work through it. If he doubles down or minimizes it, then that's a big red flag. If you can, I'd write down everything he said throughout the night. Also show him the texts you receive asking if everything is okay. Let him know his behavior was noted by others and they were shocked at how rude he was being." OP replies, "That's how I feel as well. If he apologizes and understands that it was really weird and mean, I'll be happy to take this as drunk guy shoves his foot all the way into his mouth and move on. But if he tried to keep the just a joke thing going sober, it would be really hard for me to want to stay." And then OP was asked how old she is, as she sounded younger to be in this position. OP replies, "I'm 23 actually. Here's an update. So things went a little differently than I had hoped, but was still okay. I woke up after finally falling asleep and he went to work. I was still at his place and woke up the next morning to a couple dozen messages from him and calls, all apologizing, all seeming pretty panicked, which if you knew his history was reason for alarm. Searched the house, but he wasn't home. I called him back to find him at his friend's house. I was still at his place and a lot of his panic attack ramblings made it sound like he had 3 reasons for not coming back to his place after his shift. He didn't want to wake me up with him there because he was scared it would make me uncomfortable. He needed someone to talk to right then and didn't want to wake me. Valid, but I'm thankful I needed sleep. He wasn't sure he could face what he thought was an inevitable breakup in that frame of mind. It was pretty clear that his anxiety had gotten a hold of him and he wasn't handling it well at all. But by the time he got home, he was calm. I made us coffee and we sat down and talked. His version of events was that when he started making the jokes, everyone laughed and he thought I genuinely didn't mind. And by the time it seemed everyone was uncomfortable with him, he was too far gone to notice. He did not remember our brief discussion after everyone left, but didn't deny he said it. He basically said, "Yeah, I guess in the frame of mind I was in, that makes sense." He also apologized profusely and repeatedly. He looked close to tears the entire time, though he never actually cried, and had a hard time keeping eye contact. I told him it really upset me and that he knew my history and why I didn't want to be made into a joke by someone who was supposed to love me. He agreed vehemently and said he understood entirely and all he wanted was a chance to apologize and make it up to me. I asked how he planned to do that and he said he was going to stop drinking, period. Something I wasn't too surprised to hear was on the table. I mentioned in the comments of the last post that he hardly ever drinks. He said on top of that, he was going to offer to sit down and watch all of the movies on my list with me since he hadn't actually seen 3 of the 4. But he understood if I didn't want to watch them with him. I explained about the text messages and he was horrified and said he would reach out to everyone we invited and apologize personally. I was pretty satisfied at this point and just happy to call it a fluke, though I did express to him that I considered leaving when he said what he said about it being a joke and that if it ever happened again I couldn't promise I wouldn't. We did end up watching 2 of the movies he hadn't seen and the other 2 are also on the docket. He didn't love Creep 2. He liked the first one better, but he was pleasantly surprised by Bonnie and Clyde and he took me out for Indian food as well. A real treat because he will tell you himself he has pilgrim taste buds and since I'm the non-fussy one in the relationship, most of the time we go out it's for burgers or chicken trendies. Haha. I've forgiven him and I know a lot of people disagree with that idea, but I'm no saint either and I'd hate for him to judge our relationship based on the worst thing I've ever done, so I don't want to do that to him. Especially not when he's so willing to ensure nothing similar will ever happen again. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting and if it became a pattern, I would leave. But one bad night isn't enough for me to throw away 3 years of friendship and 1 year of an amazing relationship. TLDR, we worked it out and he's not a monster, just a bit of an idiot when he drinks. He subtracted the alcohol so now we have 0 problems. Now let's check out some relevant comments. User 1 says, so glad it worked out. Also I'm curious, what's the worst thing you've ever done in that relationship? OP replies, that'd be a toss-up between ignoring him for a full day because I was pissed off, knowing that it would upset him instead of talking to him, or the time I went through his phone early on in the relationship. 0 reason to do so other than me gaining a sudden suspicious nature out of nowhere. He didn't even really get mad over either, he was just disappointed. And I apologized for both. Made amends and we moved past it. The first one was actually probably the worst, but I really didn't think about his anxiety or anything during that time and he thought I ghosted him for no reason. That was a pretty crappy thing to do. Guy gets drunk, says some stupid crap, girlfriend takes offense and they work it out. I mean, there's really not a whole lot to see here. Glad that they were able to move past it and glad that the guy isn't as big of a jerk as it seemed initially and cut out the alcohol so they're good. Congrats. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I did not want her there when I got home from deployment? I, 21M, have been deployed for the past 10 months and I'll be getting home in 1 week. My wife and I's plan was for her to be the only one to know what date I was coming back so that when I get leave we can go back and surprise all of our family and friends. My wife, 21F, visited home a couple of weeks ago for a family event, and while she was there she spent a day with my mom and 2 younger sisters, high school age. My mother is very pushy and hates surprises, so much so that me surprising her by coming home would make her mad at me. My wife and I knew we would eventually have to tell her because of this, but we're waiting until the last minute because she would have told my sisters if she knew my date. Well, while my wife was there, my mom pushed and pushed, telling her that she wouldn't speak to her, let the girls go places, and she had to know so she could take days off work. My wife gave her a week range of my leave, a couple days after I get back, so that she could request off. Well, my mom texted me today telling me she would be here for the welcome home when her plane lands. I asked if she cleared this with my wife, seeing as she apparently planned to stay with us in our 1-bedroom apartment, and she said no. I asked if the girls knew and were coming and she said no. My mom has done a few things that presses between my wife and I, so I lost it on her. Told her I wouldn't be giving her the date that I fly in, that if I wanted her there, I would want my sisters there as well. I stopped there and she started complaining that she was a single mom who raised me on her own, and that I should want to see her first. That's when I told her I didn't want her in my house at all when I first get home. I'm a married grown man now. I don't need my mom. I want to see and spend time with my wife first and foremost. She pressed further saying, I've been there for you since before you were born. She's been here for 4 years. Eventually trash-talking my wife, saying she doesn't even have a real job and doesn't contribute. My wife is a nanny while she's in school, and she gets paid well, so she absolutely does contribute more than enough. This is where I may be the a-hole. I told my mom that I was tired of her badgering, that I wanted to come home to my wife and be alone in our home with our pets. My wife and I would not want to host her, and we wanted the house to ourselves so that we can have sex wherever and whenever we please because we haven't seen each other in so long. My mom cried. She's sending me long paragraph texts every few hours about how she doesn't know where her caring son went. About how I need to let my wife go because I use her for her body. About how all I care about is my own pleasure. And I have no care for my family at all. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? I haven't responded to the messages my mother is sending, but if I get ideas from the possible comments, I might. Let's check some relevant comments here. So one commenter says, "Good job finally standing up to her. Stop giving her info and stop talking to her. Mom, until you learn to act like an adult and stop trash-talking my wife to me, I will not be communicating with you. I'm very disappointed in you and how incredibly selfish and immature you're acting. Don't make your wife deal with this jerk." Opie says, "I haven't given her info. She told me she was coming for my plane to land and she didn't even know when that date was. The only info she got was from my wife and was quite literally worded as, quote, 'He will likely have leave within these few weeks, but those weeks could change. Could she find you at the airport?' Opie says, "She won't be able to even if she wanted to. The runway we land on is on base." And then replies to a different commenter, "She literally cannot get on to base without me or my wife with her or my permission for a visitor's pass. I won't be giving that permission so she can try everything she wants. She's not getting in." Another commenter says, "You need to tell your CEO and XO about your mom. Do not put it past her to try contacting your unit to get information on where you are, when you are, and how you are coming home. As embarrassing as it is, you gotta protect yourself here and probably go low to no contact with your mom for a while." Opie says, "She did this in basic training. She called the base I was at so many times that they had to pull me from intake to call her and tell her to leave people alone. After that, I knew she didn't need information. She doesn't even fully know my MOS." Another commenter says, as part of a larger comment, "She's an example of a manipulative parent." Here's a paragraph from an article about manipulative parents and their signs. "Parents using emotional blackmail will often threaten to withdraw their love or approval if the child does not comply with their wishes. This can manifest as guilt-tripping the child, making them feel responsible for the parent's happiness, or expressing extreme disappointment when the child does not meet their expectations." And Opie says that paragraph fits what she's been doing to a T. "What confuses me is none of my mom's behavior like this started until we got married. Before, when she was my girlfriend, she always wanted her around, joked about trading me and my wife, invited her everywhere my family went. Now it bothers her when we spend time together and she isn't invited when she thinks she should/can be." Another commenter says, "She's jealous of your wife. She wants to be close to you, platonically of course. I've heard cases like these. She obviously cannot grasp the idea of you becoming an adult. You need to tell her. No, you're not her little boy anymore." Opie says, It didn't work much, so I just started going LC. Mostly keeping it about my sisters if we will visit. And of course this because I wasn't willing to just let her think she could step on me and my wife. Especially without consulting my wife first, considering she's the only one home taking care of our place right now." Another commenter says, "Sounds like a tough situation, man. I had something similar with my in-laws once. It's not easy to navigate family dynamics sometimes. Do you think she'd respond better if your wife talked to her instead?" Opie says, "No, I think she would go after her more honestly. After her telling my wife she wouldn't speak to her or let my sister spend time with us, if my wife didn't tell her when I'd visit home, I think having my wife tell her she isn't welcome would go just the same if not worse. Not only that, but my wife is a people pleaser. She's extremely sweet and would do anything to accommodate anyone, even if it isn't what she wants. She's getting better about having a stronger spine, she calls it, but I don't want to put her into a position that would make her uncomfortable. If my mom went to my wife herself, I would want my wife to stand up for herself, but I don't want to ask her to do that for me." Another commenter says, "OMG, you need to go either NC or very LC with your mom. JFC, wow. That's just wow. Been there. Mom was the last thing I thought about when I got back from deployment. I mean, God forbid you get stationed overseas. What will she do then? Effing move in? You need to nip that in the bud now." Opie replies to this, "I already don't contact her much outside of for my sisters and neither does my wife. Our plan when my contact ends is to move to a base even further from home, where we would have to fly for visits. That would take our amount of visits down a lot because we travel with our pets, but they're both large dogs and we don't want to put them under a plane, and plane tickets on top of pet boarding is expensive. If people would want to see us, they would have to come to us. Oh, and my mom refuses to get on a plane. Commenter says, not the a-hole. Your mom is way too involved in your life. Has she always had such an unhealthy attachment to you? And Opie replies to this, after reading the comments and thinking back on how things have been when I was a kid to now, it seems that when our dad passed away, I became her stand-in. And then to a different commenter says, she practically expected me to be a father figure to my sisters starting at 8. Even now, I have my mom's calls blocked because when my sisters are in trouble, she calls me and tells me to talk to them instead of dealing with it herself. And Opie is voted NTA. Now here's an update post, 2 days later. A few people asked to stay updated, so here's the first one. Spoiler alert, it's not necessarily a fun one. Unfortunately, because of another wife sharing our flight date all over Facebook, our return has been pushed back an entire month. I called my wife to let her know, and we are both devastated. I only had enough time for one phone call, so I asked my wife to let family and friends know, including my mother. Yes, I know many people might not be happy about that, but again, she didn't receive a date. My wife's text to her was just that I would not be returning until a month later, or more. My mother's reaction to that news has truly solidified what many comments are telling me. I was raised by a narcissist. Her text back to my wife was, oh, that's great. That's actually much better timing for me. My wife's response to my mother was, do not say that to insert my name here. He is devastated that he will be gone longer, and he's been talking about wanting to be home ASAP since just a few months in. I wish she wouldn't have even said it to me, as I'm devastated by his return being delayed as well. It is extremely selfish for you to be glad he is away from home for even longer, simply because it works better for you. I've never in my life heard of a mother being glad that her child will be overseas longer than what was planned. After that, she blocked my mom. Her shiny spine is really developing. I have not reached out to my mother, and I will not be doing so. I won't block her. As with my sisters being minors, I would like for one of us, my wife or I, to have at least some line of communication in case of some family emergency. However, I will not be texting or calling, and any of her texts or calls will not be answered unless I consider them an emergency. There were a few questions and deeper explanations from my original post, so I figured I would go into them deeper here. My father passed away when I was 6. Ever since then, my mom has sort of relied on me when it came to raising my sisters. Even with them being high school aged, it continued. When I went into the military, my mom got upset, saying things at home would be just terrible with me gone, and she didn't know how she would handle my sisters on her own, and that life would seem more pointless without her son in it every day. When my wife and I got married and moved to my first duty station, she begged to trade my sisters off, sending one of them to stay with us every few weeks, where they would stay in our living room. She even told us we would need to purchase a hide-a-bed couch for it to work out. Obviously, that had never happened, as I told her my sisters were my sisters and her kids. It was not my responsibility to raise them. My mom and I were very close when I was growing up. I considered her one of my best friends, and someone I could always go to. That changed when I got married. I also realized that some of the things she said were not healthy or good parenting moments. My mom started purchasing condoms for me when I was only 12. She was very open about sex with me, and was not one to shy away from it. She was completely fine with me having sex at such a young age, which did lead me to being a bit of a man whore. Before my wife, I constantly snuck girls in, snuck out to hang out with girls, and whatever else. My wife was the first girl that I brought to my house during the day, introduced to my family, and invited her for dinner. My wife was also very strict with her views on sex when we started dating. We were friends before, so she knew I was a bit of a player. Where I viewed sex as something fun, she viewed it as something that should only be between two people who truly love each other. She was not down for it until a few months into us dating, and I was willing to wait for her. We still snuck around, but when she snuck me in, we quite literally played Mario Kart, watched movies, and hung out all night. When this part of me changed, it changed something about my mom for some reason. She did used to ask about girls I was sleeping with when I was in high school, but when she asked about my wife when we started dating, I told her we weren't doing anything like that. She got frustrated about me lying. She stopped buying me condoms, which I was fine with because I didn't need them in the beginning, and when I did, I was 18 and completely fine buying them myself. Before my wife and I ever did have sex, she would come in my room and scream about how she didn't want me having sex under her roof. I thought that she just realized that encouraging a minor to have sex wasn't okay. My mom also liked my wife when she was just my girlfriend. This always confused me until I read people's comments. Her going from loving her, inviting her to everything, asking where she was when she wasn't with me, to trash-talking her didn't make sense to me until people in the comments of my last post clarified that it was the fact that she was my wife. Her being permanent is what my mother doesn't like. And as far as cock-blocking, my mom has happily done that since we've been married. She screeched and hit her face when I kissed my wife at our wedding. She bugged us to sleep on a pallet in her living room on our wedding night. We didn't. She tried calling 3 times a day when we first moved, once around the time I usually got off work, once either during or after dinner, and once at night, sometimes while my wife was mid-tango, sometimes when we were already asleep. It was very rare that I actually answered these calls, and when she realized her calls were muted, they faded away. She FaceTimed seemingly once an hour on our first wedding anniversary. Again, I didn't answer. Her wanting us to host her when I first got back was not her being clueless. She knew what she was trying to do. Now that I have a new return date, my mother will not even know the possible weeks I might have leave. She won't need to. I do not plan on seeing her outside of maybe going out to eat with her, my wife, and the rest of my family. My wife will be organizing it, and will be able to ask my sisters about days my mother is off work. That's all I have as far as an update right now. I may post more before returning, just based on how things go. I can imagine I'll have plenty of an update when I do actually return. This is weird. This is really weird. Outside of the obsessive, over-the-top, in-your-business momming that's going on, like the sex talks and the jealousy, it's like bordering on incest. Like very creepy. I think that the son, the OP, is quite right to keep his mother at arm's length. Ostensibly, it doesn't seem like she means any harm, but it's still creepy, so yeah. Story 4. Am I the a-hole for letting my son help me in the kitchen? Plus 1 year update. In general sense, I know I'm not the a-hole, but I wanted an unbiased opinion from people in here. I 42F have 3 sons. Jamie, 16M, Matt, 12M, and Paul, 10M, with my husband Charlie, 45M. My middle son Matt is a little different from his brothers. His brothers like things that are typically meant for men, like sports, gadgets, video games, and so on. But Matt is different. He's not a big sports fan. He likes reading and painting. He doesn't mind doing things that are typically not for boys. Another thing about him is that he's passionate about food. He's been like this since he was 6. He would often come to the kitchen and see me cook and oftentimes offer to help. Well, I don't let him do heavy things like cutting or standing too close to the fire, but he would be a helping hand. I call him Ramsay Jr. after Gordon Ramsay. Honestly, I like this arrangement because while I'm doing all the cooking, my other boys are in their room. My husband, on the other hand, is not impressed by Matt. He's a proud father of 3 sons and often likes to do scuffs with them, like teaching them how to play baseball.